And we're
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Town of Port Royal Annual Retreat. We're going to open up this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. So if everybody could take a minute and stand. We have a flag here on our right. We'll be standing and facing that flag. Councilman, can you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just praise. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings of life. And Lord, we're thankful for this opportunity where we can gather with the residents, our family, our friends at Port Royal to do the business of the town. Lord, I ask that you give each person here today the words, the wisdom, the courage, and the discernment to make the decisions that are pleasing in your sight. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And who do we have on the list to start?
Well, first we have the Greater Beaufort Port Royal Convention Visitor, and we have Rob Wells here. Oh, and this is one we're very familiar with.
Right here, is this fine?
Yeah.
Good morning.
good morning. 1 second.
So we did prepare a little presentation. Joe, how much time do I have?
We're here till 5.
So we.
Jerry's here till 5.
The goal of us is to try to end around noon, but we're absolutely, this is your opportunity. We're going to do our best. There are some commitments that some of us have later on today, as we're always asked to do other things in that aspect.
So I want to make sure we're conscious of your time and we save time for our other partners that are coming up behind us. And so we want to be respectful of that. For those who don't know myself, I'm Rob Wells. I'm President CEO of the Greater Beaufort Port Royal Convention Visitor Bureau. We were formed in 2018 as we separated from the Chamber of Commerce, the Regional Chamber of Commerce back in that time. And it was established at that point that we would create our new set of board governance and go that path as we focus every day of waking up and focusing on tourism and destination management, marketing for Northern Beaufort County. Brooke, I'm just going to point to move to the next slide. Our goal is to promote Northern Beaufort County, and that extends from basically Port Royal Sound Foundation, OPT area, up to Fripp, Honing Island, and all municipalities in between. Our board is governed by 17 members who make up the hospitality and tourism industry, but we do have designated seats, one of which the Town of Port Royal has a designated seat and has made an appointment to that since 2018. I think the first one was Connie Prenzel, all the way up until Nancy Plank, who serves on our board currently as the appointee. And not that we're anyone more favored than the other, but Nancy is, I think we don't spend a week without going by without having some communication from Nancy on what the Town of Port Royal is doing, event-wise, new events coming into the area. And that's been one of our established goals. And Nancy does a very good job of keeping our team moving forward with that. So we go by many names, okay? We go by many names. The Convention and Visitor Bureau, or the CVB, Charlie Victor Bravo, probably one we're most recognized by. Sometimes you'll hear us referenced as the DMO, which is the Designated Marketing or Management Organization. That is how state statute refers to us in the state accommodations law, which governs the collection of 2% overnight fees, which you guys collect here in the Town of Port Royal on traditional lodging hotels or short-term rentals and management of that. And so each community has a different setup when it comes to that, but we follow a similar law, and that is the 30% collection is what we were remitted. I think this year is 16,000 some change from that. And so we focus in on the visitor life cycle. We focus on the dream and plan, which is where marketing and advertising come into play. When it comes to booking, we let the private sector handle that. We do not get in the way of the private sector. There's no commission charge. We push every bit of our booking reservation on our website to the partner that is booking the trip. That way they collect 100% of revenue. And what that does is it allows for higher revenues for the hotel or the short-term rental, but also higher booking tax collection for the hotel. And so we feel like that's not our phase. But one thing we do is in the share phase, we also call that the evaluation phase. And we spend a lot of time collecting data on our visitors as they move about the funnel, if you will. So our main goal is to create this formula where the visitor experience is greater than or equal to the visitor's expectation. A visitor has a certain expectation when they come to town, and our job is to create that experience, at least establish that experience to be equal to or greater than. And that's one of where our relationship with Nancy does as on our board is just letting us know the events that are taking place. It is so hard to accommodate all the events that happen, all the activities that are taking place, and all the movements and all the new businesses that are moving on. So we want to make sure that if someone has, fishing on their agenda, that they know that there's a couple places here at the Sands Point boat ramp to get your bait before you move out. You'd be surprised how oftentimes that is a path forward where people are searching. So now we've Boat Dock Supply, which, it's one of my favorite places, obviously. The seaside, Honey Hole being real close by the launch makes it easy. We try to make that path happen. I apologize up front for my voice. I'm not.
There's a lot of pollen outside.
Yeah, I won't blame the pollen, but man, I was knocked out with this past week with some sort of laryngitis. My wife was happy. It's okay, but it's coming back. At any point, please feel free to stop and ask questions. You'll give me a break, give Nancy a chance to answer anything that comes in. We want to talk about what our team does. We are looks like a large team, but we're only 3 full-time employees. We have 11 part-time employees, mainly in the visitor center located in downtown Beaufort. But we handle the advertising, public relations, group sales and meetings, travel sports. I mean, I don't know if you have kids that play travel sports, but we are in the understanding that travel sports is something that is a growing low-hanging fruit for our area. We've seen great success. We'll be hosting several golf tournaments for American Junior Golf over Paris Island here in June. Travel, flag football, soccer, baseball, softball, those type of things. Research and data. Like I said, we spend a lot of time in research and in data, tracking everything from how visitors flow in and around the area, who comes into the area and stays, how long they're here for, were they an overnight, were they out of state, were they in state, who's coming to Bands, Brews, and Barbecue. We'll have that data in about 2 or 3 weeks. Going to pass that over to Nancy as we have geo-fenced this area of Pierce Avenue. Just kind of watch people walk in and out from out of town. And of course, our visitor services where we provide people with their information as people are requesting more information, whether they do that online or over the phone or in person. Those are just a few things that we do. I think our biggest maturation since 2018 is working with individual partners, whether that's attractions or festivals and events, that find the best way to continue to market and advertise to the right people, to the people who are open and listening to ideas that people come in there. And I think that's where, going forward, I think that's where Nancy has been such a huge help with the planning of the major festivals here in Port Royal and getting those lined up. I know Brooke has also been a part of that as we've met several times on what's the best path forward. Hey, just real quick, we're very transparent, so we want to make sure we give a full accounting of our budget. So go ahead. And who knows what this is going to look like as we transfer this over, but we have a $1.1 million budget. We are funded through the Beaufort County, City of Beaufort, County of Port Royal as the designated DMO, but we also receive grant funding from the state of South Carolina. And then we have some, it's about 5% private funding. That comes from our visitor center. We have, sell tour tickets and opportunities there. And we have a little small retail shop that sells commission. We have a couple of sweet basket artists that sell their wares in the gift shop. So if they're selling sweetgrass baskets, we're making a little bit of commission on that, and we've sold 3 or 4 this year, so it's been a pretty good year thus far. Anyway, that is our budget. That's the way the DMO investment looks. Now, I don't share this to join in. This is all based on where rooms are. So Beaufort County, Northern Beaufort County, collects all unincorporated state accommodation tax. North and south overall. The vast majority of that's in Northern Beaufort County. We can show on the geofence exactly where it's at. Fripp, Harbor, Plenty being the main collecting site. City of Beaufort has most of the traditional hotels. Port Royal has short-term rentals and one traditional lodging spot. And but we can get to that in a little bit later. That's where that falls. Here's how we spend that money. You spend 70% of that marketing, services, sales, operations, business services receive that. Someone asked, what do you spend on personnel? Well, there's a philosophy, there's a formula that CDBs use for our size DMOs, if you will, and it's 38 to 42%. We're at 38.4, 38.5, so we'll round up 39% of our stuff goes to personnel. But on our personnel, that is business services, that is ad people. Some of the people in the crowd may know Megan Carew on our team. She's part of the marketing, she's our marketing manager, handles the vast majority of our marketing partnerships. So all this can be upon request, just ask, we can show this out. Our marketing approach is kind of simple. These are the areas that we try to advertise in. And we work with our partners to make sure and ensure that they are touching at least one of these areas. Some festivals do better with radio than digital discipline. Soft Shell Crowd does well with radio. iHeart does a good job. Yeah, good.
Are you doing TikToks? Dancing?
I don't do it. I personally don't do TikTok,
That's
but
it.
their TikTok is a growing platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
We try to listen. We're all about data and research.
I don't see tweet.
TikTok has some good data. We just have to get it from some other folks. But as you can see, this is completely different than 5 years ago. Completely. Instagram did not have the reach that it did 5 years ago. TikTok was new. That was good, right? And you're starting a travel podcast. Podcasts exploded during the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, literally everybody has a podcast. And my kids have podcasts. Who knows? It's random stuff. But anyway, but you're starting to see these mediums grow, and they're starting to take over. But streaming video continues to be big watch. How many people are watching YouTube videos? I mean, if you're trying to fix your boat, anybody use that on the video? I mean, my goodness, I've TikTok changing a water impeller twice now. I didn't get it right the first time. So anyway, it happened. That's how you do it. But you go through here, we are using these platforms pretty constantly and consistently. We found that to be our good strategy because we are looking for people who are intent on travel. Not people who are thinking about travel in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. That does us no good. We have to set the platform now. So are they willing to travel within that 3 to 5 month platform? And that's what we're looking for. No, you're fine. Keep going.
Okay.
Here's kind of our objectives. This carries through a 2-year plan, and we are seeing it come to life right before our eyes. We started in November, December, January, February, and kind of targeting those softer months in Northern Beaufort County. And now we're starting to see growth. January had 10% increase in visitation. And before you go too crazy, and for everybody, we do track visitor to resident ratio in all Northern Beaufort County. And in no time over a given period of time, have we reached the threshold where there's more visitors than residents. It doesn't mean individually there's not. shoot, I've got a place during Water Festival on a Saturday, the first Saturday, yeah, there's some visitors in town. Okay,
Couple.
yeah, there's just a few, and we see that. Paris Island has a graduation on a Friday, the parade deck, which we have a geofence, has a lot of visitors. But globally, the year long, we do not reach that threshold, which is 1 to 1. The threshold usually gets around 8.5 at the highest, but at the lowest, it's around 0.42.
So how do you define visitor? We're looking at north of the Broad. How do you define visitor?
So a visitor to us is someone who resides outside of our 30-mile radius.
30-mile radius.
Yeah. Now we do that because we have to be careful. We do expand that out, Joe, because we do have employees who live outside that perimeter that come to town, right? And so we have to be very specific about how we capture. So everybody has one of these, right? Right? My area code is 843, but somebody may have a different area code to their phone. Means nothing. That's the old Southern Bell days for your landline with your direct attachment, your area code finds you. Now it doesn't matter. It's a GPS tracking chip inside it, and it's how we track geo-based location. And so what happens is where this rests at night tells me where you are. Crazy, I know. But we do that because we need to define where our visitors are flowing. So we know with some very certainty, Joe, that when a military graduation takes place, we know their flow chart. We know where they're coming in from, where they're staying, and then what pathways they're using to get to Paris Island.
So when they ping that geofence, you're picking them up from that point,
Yes, sir.
and then where they go back to, where that phone.
Yeah, where they rest.
Right.
So Jerry, let's just take, for instance, you're a visitor, you're from Cincinnati, Ohio. I use that. Which coming in for graduation. Your son, daughter's graduating. You're gonna come in on Wednesday night because you're gonna go. You didn't make the dinner. You didn't get on that 250 plate dinner, so you gotta come in Wednesday night. Come in Wednesday, you're gonna go family day, do those things. You're gonna ping in the market on Wednesday. We're gonna pick you up. You'll ping out on Friday when you take your graduate home, when you bring home. He's gonna show you at the hotel that you're staying. It could be a short-term rental, depending on how large your family is, but you may have stayed at one of the hotels. And this talks about food because you are going to dine. We can kind of tell you where you're gonna dine at. We see it. We see your flow out, and then we see your flow home.
Do you have any a click-through rate or anything? I mean, and what is your demographic that you're setting? Because are you setting like 18 to 55, 18 to 70, is
Sure.
that the age or demographic that you're
So
setting?
we'll take two hits of that. That's pretty good. Marketing and advertising and PR, we have designated demos, if you will, demographics. What we will target in our bread and butter, folks, is 45 to 65. Okay, that's our bread and butter. But you know what? We do well marketing to 30 plus with kids during certain times of the year. During the winter, not so good. During the summer, great. Right? During the spring, hey, you'd be fascinated to find out who makes trip today, but our demographics 45 and over. When I first got here, it was 55 plus. We have shifted it to lower numbers, and we're starting to get younger demographics showing up. That is different from what shows up in the market from a geo. So military graduations across the board. Oh my goodness, that demographic is all over the place. You got, but the household incomes are very similar. They're within 75 to 100,000 household incomes. The leisure traveler is showing up at 100 to 150 plus. And so we're able to differentiate. We know that military graduation families, that graduate travels is somewhere around 27 to 32% of all visitors to the area. Leisure travel is way by far the largest demographic into the market. It surpasses military graduation, but different things benefit from military graduations. Well, let's look at it. It's based on room counts. Your traditional lodging only fill up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but they're Friday's out. They leave on Friday.
That's right.
Okay, so you fill up, but your occupancy still shows up Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the traditional lodging. So that's leisure backfill. The short-term rental explosion has to pick up market everywhere. And then don't forget the almost 1,000 rooms in unincorporated Beaufort County that are solely dependent on leisure travel, Fripp, Harbor, Hunting, Lands End, Poplar Point. these guys are short-term rentals. So
And the demographic of the leisure, where are they coming from?
that's a great question.
You
That's,
know, different areas, people come from different places.
Right.
You go
And I've shared this
you go to
with
the west
Nancy,
coast, southwest coast of Florida, you know where. everybody
yeah,
comes from.
and
What happens
Water
here?
Festival, and, you know, whoever we're talking, we can kind of signal who's from where. If I had a dollar, Joe, to go spend to bring one person to town to save my job, I'm going to Greenville, South Carolina.
Really?
Period. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to Greenville, they know Beaufort, I don't have to re-explain it to them for a dollar. If I have $3, I'm going to spend 2 in Charlotte and 1 in Greenville. If I have $10, 1 in Greenville, 3 in Charlotte, or 2 in Charlotte, and the rest in Atlanta. Now, what I've done there is I've also showed you the power, how much money it costs us advertising those markets because of the competition. Our philosophy is that stretch of 85 gold from Charlotte to Atlanta, and then everything towards us, Augusta, Columbia, Charleston, Savannah. Those are our markets. And so that's how we view it. Charleston's a great market for day trips. But for overnight travel, I can't depend on them. They're gonna go home after their festival. We see it all the time. Oyster Festival is a great example. They were leaving, whatever was going on up there, they came to stay. Charleston rated #1, Columbia's #2. Overnight, Columbia, crazy, right? Atlanta 3rd, Charlotte 4th, it's good. It's good.
This is all your geofences, this is
Yeah.
that. So when it pings your geofences to stay with them for a period of time, 30 days, like you set that.
Yeah, do you take when you use Facebook, whether you turn off notifications or not, it still tracks.
Right.
And that's kind of how it works.
And is there a click-through rate on this?
We don't collect the rate for geofencing, we're not tracking that.
Okay.
We're wanting to know where they're spending, because you know what, ultimately, it matters not at one hill beans, whether that visitor is staying overnight or day tripping. What we're tracking is their visitor spend, because we think visitor spending lift is what churns the economy more so than stagnant spend. So if your destination, if your town is dependent on local residents to continue to churn the same dollar, your dollar in Port Royal is moving around to different places, and I've seen you shopping in different places, that's still your dollar. But if my in-laws come from out of town in here and spend the same dollar, that's a new dollar. And that's where the tourism lift comes in, the visitor economy, and that's what we're tracking. So some of the new data Nancy's gonna bring back to the board will be visitor spending lift. And does it take place? And so my point to Town of Port Royal, if you're looking to churn new dollars and keep those new dollars in town, you gotta put a new hotel up. I know it sounds crazy, but that hub keeps people here. And I'm not, this is not just opening the door here. The Paris Island visitor stays on Bounty Street to Paris Island Gateway to Paris Island. It's 31% on the high end of visitation. Who benefits? Fish Camp does benefit. By far and away, the largest restaurant as far as visitors go. It's not your #1 food source though, it's probably Food Line or Piggly Wiggly or one of the grocery stores, it's probably one of your food sources based on our geo. The Fish Camp's big, Waffle House, McDonald's, why? Because they're on the Shellport stretch. For people respond. So you kind of have to look at it from a standpoint of where would a hotel go, make Shellpoint a good spot, right? Closer to downtown, maybe look a little different, but I'm not advocating, I'm just explaining how that hell works as you go through it.
That's good information to know when you're, that's really
So
good.
listen, as you go through this,
Yeah.
this data is available to you guys. As your DMO CVB, this is the data we track. I can provide it to Brooke and Van like we have in the past. I can send it through Nancy, or I can come up here and tap dance with a better voice later on.
The tap dancing starts when?
Well, but Nancy has a kick me in the table.
No.
Yeah, of course.
I will say this, like you talk about the research and the data, you guys put out an email that I would encourage everybody to subscribe to, and every month it comes out and it shows that, it shows like
Yep.
exactly like how we're doing this month compared to last month, compared to last year. I mean, so kind of everything you're saying, I get that email and look at it, so it's very fascinating. So like I said, I'd encourage everybody to subscribe to it and get it. It's really good stuff.
If you don't, you can have me, I'll get you another Brooke looking, or Nancy looking, they always send me this.
But the email's very data driven.
Yeah, it's
very like,
100%.
like I said, it's month to month, how we were last year compared to this month. I mean, it's really good stuff.
The hotel doesn't, this council is looking at economic development and commercial development. We're constantly looking. Our planning department yesterday told us there is a hotelier looking very hard in our area.
Great.
Maybe not exactly in the corridor you said, but pretty darn close.
Sure.
You know, again, that stuff is happening and we're constantly looking for ways. A goal came out yesterday and I encourage that kind of stuff. So,
Be glad to help in any way. That's my piece.
question,
Thank you. Good information.
injecting
A lot
Dorian,
of information.
How many hotels are in the city?
7. I think I counted it.
We have 1,500 hourly
Okay.
accounts,
Yeah, yeah,
1,500
yeah.
rooms in
Okay.
traditional lodging.
100 rooms.
Downtown has about 235, if you will. The short-term rental count, so Port Royal short-term rental count equates it to a traditional hotel. You have about 80 something,
86.
86. We'll count that as a hotel,
Gotcha.
right? As a whole, you have another hotel, right? So.
We lost a hotel.
This, correct, and that, the room count loss is important to note.
Well, we did lose.
Whether you like it or not, those room counts do hold because of, it's from a city budgeting, or town budgeting standpoint, 2% tax is not your highest, that's not your number. It's I would say your hospitality taxes, your prepared food taxes are much higher, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, the hub of an overnight accommodation spends not like $30 more. It literally is double. When you look at an overnight spend versus a day trip. In the month of January, the day trip was $81, which is probably lunch and maybe a trinket. The overnight was $175. So you see, that's a per day spend. So if you look at what the valuation of an overnight spend is, their input is a little bit higher in new dollar spend in the market, if you will. And that's how we look at it from that standpoint. And again, our goal is to maintain what makes this place great. And that doesn't mean an overrun of visitors. We're conscious of that. That's why we look at that visitor to resident ratio. And you may have more visitors than residents last night. You have an event, Soft Shell Craft Festival, you may have more visitors than for one day, right, or two.
Yeah.
But overall, Port Royal is closer to 0.6 than it is to 1 on that.
You can buy a few more drinks when you're not driving home, you know,
There you go.
spend a little more money.
Rob, I get questions all the time from all around about, is there a single source calendar of events happening?
Yeah.
And we'll call it Northern Beaver County.
Yeah.
It is, you know, who's responsible? for that?
Yeah.
How do we come together and do that?
I follow 4.
Yeah,
I
well,
follow 4. I got like 4 like this.
Yeah.
right, how do
Different
we,
calendars.
how do we figure that out in that way? Is it the chamber, is it you, is it towns and the county and the city getting together to do it? I mean,
Right.
what's your thoughts on that? What have you seen as other places and locations?
Well, we've tried to address that from BufordSC.org with our events page. Our county has all events in the area. We monitor Facebook being event builder, right?
Okay.
So again, we're using a little bit of technology here. If an event shows up on Facebook, we literally have it geofenced to pull into our website. If those events are not created on Facebook, Nancy sends them to us, we directly upload them, which is exactly what she does. If not once a week, twice a week. And we love it. Just get it. We've not had that before from Port Royal especially. Now that's not a knock, it's just the way it's not here. Same thing in Beaufort, but we are very intentional about what hits the calendar. Listen, I'm a church goer, but my church bulletin doesn't go on BufordSC.org or the events calendar. I love my church. Just our events aren't going to show up because that's not necessarily what we're pushing.
If I make my dad's 60th birthday on Facebook event.
It might,
It's not popping up in the email.
you would be surprised how many of those
Mike
pop in the
Phillips'
back end.
birthday party.
Because they go to Eventbrite for people to RSVP or Facebook, right? And so we have to be very conscious about, will that be something that the public can enjoy? I'll give you a good example. It is the worst cussing of my life. Happened in 2013 or 14. We had a lady from Hilton Head see our events calendar for an event at Fripp Island. And she drove that whole loop and got to the gate and they wouldn't let her on. And she called the number on the event It just happened to be ours at the office, and boy, that was a cussing.
Let you up.
Oh, yeah, and it made us think, okay, Frick has great events, right? But not everybody can get to it. So we have to be very conscious about how those work. So we try very hard
Okay.
to make sure we're managing that.
Link that calendar.
Already on. the-
We started doing that.
Yeah, they.
Because I look at our calendar, I didn't even notice that I
And
noticed.
so one of the things that we try to do is we reference back to Town of Port Royal's page for those calendar events. As long as Nancy's getting them on there, and it takes us about 24 to 48 hours to get it float. And, you know, we have some problems sometimes where technology doesn't work with us very well, but we do our darndest to make it happen.
Thank you. Anything else, council?
Yeah, just one comment. Nancy, thank you for your hard work and for your support of everything. You do a great job, and we certainly appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to add from your chair?
No, well, anybody that has any events that you know, of, right, you check with Brooke weekly, I check different sheltering, everybody, and that's what I compile and send to Rob and Megan, and they put it on there, and you can click on that, Brooke. Yes.
I'm trying.
As you
It's
slide
a
down.
time.
And what we do is we have
And see,
our,
there's all your events.
Nice.
so as these events populate, they do rotate out, so like, you know, with Salt Shell Craft Festival, we call it a premier event. That one will have a different location. It will be on the event calendar, but it will be highlighted on the homepage.
Sure.
And it'll be highlighted as a hero image. So if you go to, can you hit the top left logo? Yeah, there you go, move us. Just real quick, I'll just show you where it will land. So when the events take place, when they're what we call a hero image, boom, there's Nancy Brews Barbecue, there's the image. So it loads on the homepage. That's Nancy doing that work with Megan to get those things launched.
Awesome.
Okay, just so everybody.
And then when I first started with Rob, being with the old Village Association, going out for sponsors, a lot of people wanted to know, what was your head count? So I went to Rob, I says, I need a head count. He says, well, I can't do that, but right now, he's worked a system that any event on Paris Island, we can track it.
Just geofence that.
Yes, just
Yes.
Paris Island, because that's the major part of our events are on Paris Island. So right
Here's
now.
Exactly. One of the biggest criticisms we are speaking of what Nancy's talking about is people always say, well, Rob, you're catching traffic counts. We do not monitor any road. We have one road we monitor in all of northern Beaufort County, that's Pierce Avenue, so that we can capture the events.
That's only because that's where our events
So
are.
that's what Nancy asked for, so we
That's it.
geofence the
The
event.
reason we own the road, that's what it was.
Good ass, Nancy, good ass.
Because I can't I'd have to go to some shop to do it on the road.
Yeah, like I said, thank you on that, and I would encourage anyway to sign up for the
Yeah, thank you.
newsletter. I get it you get it once a month, and I go through the data, and it's very, like I said, month to month, year to year, kind of everything you said.
Like I said, weekly, that message goes out and Megan uploads all this, so you have anything you need me to do, just let me know, or let Brooke know, she'll let me know. So whatever I can do to help, I'll be there.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for coming in on Saturday.
Appreciate
Next up
It's
is,
fun. Enjoy your Saturday.
it.
yeah,
BJWSA?
Beaufort Jasper.
David Strange.
David, thank you again for joining us.
You bet.
And you're welcome for the pass on Saturday morning.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll be working in the gardens right now. Well, since all of you had the opportunity to see Joe Mantua and team's presentation last week, I decided not to go through that again with you. But that's okay.
That's fine.
All right. So what I thought I'd do first is to just kind of give an overview of sort of the financial status of Beaufort Jasper real quickly. Our audit was completed. We're on a fiscal year. Fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th, typical of most authorities like this. And we had our formal audit completed. We got the highest rating possible within the industry for financial stability, reporting, internal communication management, It was really a very, for me, the first time going through this process. It was very encouraging. Very encouraging. And all the year-to-date expectations for budget and all of our operating revenue expenses are within the parameters of what we would expect, both from an operating standpoint and from an expenditure standpoint. We're slightly year-to-date under revenue projections, but that tends to be the case from a cycling standpoint, because your water usage is always a little bit down. And so it happens to be just a little bit more behind than it was at this point last year. But our expenses are also significantly down as well. So all of the ratios, the equity to long-term debt ratio is well beyond what we would expect as a benchmark, 2.81. Our operating ratio is exceeds what we have established as a benchmark. And we're at an all-time high in terms of cash on hand at 936 days worth of cash on hand, which is an exceedingly strong position to be in.
Got 3 years.
It's an operating utility. It's more than twice what we've established as a benchmark. So that's all good. We have currently 212 total employees. We've got, I think, 5 openings that we're recruiting for. One of those positions is for a new general manager. Some of you, I'm sure, know that Joe Mantua is retiring this spring. We've been through a process during the course of the past 3 months of recruiting for that position. We interviewed 4 candidates week before last, and we're bringing back our number 1 candidate this coming week. And so we should have a decision and negotiated contract for a new GM by the end of next week or early the following week. And as soon as that happens, then obviously we'll go out as an announcement to the public.
Are they someone from the area? Are they someone that would move to?
I'm really not.
Can't say.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you'll be among the first to know.
I got you.
Okay.
But there's a person. I wouldn't just say
Yeah,
that.
great. I mean, the
Not a
interest,
robot.
Okay, so there's a
not AI.
driver there. So there's a human being. And
There's a human
we leave it at that.
that's right. Nobody currently serving on the local council. A tremendous interest from people with great credentials and great experience. So we were blessed to see as many good folks as we did. Let me see here. Capacity fees, with all the discussion around the development plan this past year. Some of you attended the meetings that we had for evaluating how that was going to be implemented. We had a lot of participation from the engineering community. We established a new plan, and that is now in place. That went into effect as of February this month. On an ongoing basis, in case any of you hear anything about somebody not being 100% pleased with how that turned out, and that's possible. We have a committee, a task force that has been formulated to continue to evaluate how that plan is being implemented and entertain suggestions to refine it. And I feel encouraged about that. First of all, I think because of the input that we got from the community, from the engineering community, we made several changes to what originally was proposed. Joe, you know that. Dan, we went through that. Some of the board members made suggestions. We voted on it, and we changed about a half a dozen pretty important aspects of the development plan that I think I know from my background in construction, were more accommodating to the needs and to to the implementation of how we would work engineering to engineering department. More needs to be done, in my personal opinion, and I think they're evaluating that as time goes on. We're well ahead of schedule for budgeted capacity fees for this coming year. The single biggest project that we have underway, we just had a groundbreaking on Wednesday for the Perrysburg water treatment facility, which is up in Jasper County, just this side of the Savannah River. The capacity of that plant was 15 million gallons per day. It has the ability to expand twice. This first expansion is going to double that capacity. So we'll be up to 54 million gallons per day in 2 years when that plant is completed. That's not going to be enough for the long term. So there's another expansion that while we're in the process of doing this one, we'll probably be engineering for the third expansion to get that up to 45 million gallons per day. The Chelsea plant is 24 million. Currently, there's no plan right now to expand that plant. So that's good news for all of us who depend upon the water today and hope to be able to expand it to more people who are in the underserved and unserved communities in both of the counties. The other major, this is probably the second largest single project underway is to put a new water tank in Bluffton. And we're just about to finalize the property purchase down in the Buckwater area. That'll add another very large tank to satisfy the needs of the capacity and the growth down there. So let me see, where was I? We met with the group that has just formulated for looking at workforce housing. They made a presentation to staff just this past week, I believe. Wendy Zara is one of the people on that committee that has been put together as a coalition of elements of the county, the towns, and the city in order to address and very proactively try to do what we can as a community to address the needs that we've got for workforce housing. They have solicited Beaufort Jasper to participate in that, and we have agreed to do so. In coordination with a committee that we had on an ad hoc basis this past year to specifically address the needs for underserved and non-served areas. And that exists both in Beaufort and Jasper County, but to a greater degree in Jasper County. So we're going to make that initiative part of that overall committee work going forward. And we intend to hire a full-time vice president to address that specifically. That would be the major part of this person's portfolio going forward. And shortly after we hire the new general manager, we expect to go out and have that person very involved in the hiring for that position as well. So that's I think that's the sort of thing that as an authority, most of us on the board have talked about and feel that it's something we really need to do to be an active participant in the community and helping to serve those who really have the need and don't have the income wherewithal to do it on their own. We talked about the irrigation program last week. I just wanted to reinforce how important it is for everybody to understand not to water on Monday morning.
Alternate.
And not Monday.
Please don't water on Monday mornings and if possible. So that's all out there. We've been, really trying to communicate that actively to people in the community. So I just wanted to reinforce that and to not water in those crucial hours of 6 to 9 a.m. So if we can do that, we can help dramatically level out the needs for water during the hottest months, during the growing months when this has been a problem and we've been right close to tapping up to the per day capacity of the water system. So that's a big deal. I wanted to let everybody know also, if you haven't already seen this in communication, that we're going to be shut down for 10 days in March, towards the end of March, in order to move over to a new building system.
No water.
And
No water.
You still have
no, we don't go for 10 days.
Don't try.
You get arrested. We know this is going to be very complicated. I have the sheet that we just got yesterday that explains what's going on. This is going to go out on a continuous basis through emails and inserted into everyone who gets a hard bill, what's going to take place, how to deal with it, whatever one needs to do, who's on
So the
the
shutdown's on billing.
It's on billing.
Customer service will be open.
Customer service actually will be deferring to only emergency calls during that period of time.
Okay.
Okay, so if, I only have one copy here, I didn't know how many people were going to be here. If you want to make copies, we'll, be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get
pass it out to everybody.
Appreciate that.
So that's here. What didn't I cover here? The irrigation program. Last but not least, I just wanted to say that it's been my pleasure to serve as your, board representative. I've had the chance to advocate for certain things that were problematic or needed attention from time to time. The last of which was what just came up about the Narcissus expansion. And I'm happy to report that as of late yesterday, the change order that was questioned as to who was going to pay for it, $47,000, that the authority is going to pick that up.
Thank you.
So there's not going to be a negative CO bill to the town. We've got your
Thank you very much. That project is starting to bleed a little bit. So thank you very much for advocating for that.
happy to do that sort of thing. I think that's what we're there for. And I take seriously the representation of the town per se. We all have to wear the hat, the broader brimmed hat, for things that are important throughout both counties. But I feel that more can be done, probably should be done on behalf of the town of Port Royal. And we want to continue to work on what items and initiatives are important for you folks.
Thank you very much, David. And I know that I have heard that you're also responsive to the citizens of Port Royal when they have issues. You help them out, both contractors, engineers, the average everyday person in that way. So we really appreciate what you're doing as our board member. And council, have any questions?
Can I have one?
I got one. Yeah, go ahead.
Let council go first. Go ahead.
Mine's just a general thank you. I know it took a while to get seated. I know there was some frustrations there initially, but we overcame that. And I appreciate your timely updates and communication. Well done. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, around the board here, I just want to ask you, we're working very hard on a redevelopment plan for the remote corridor. Is there any chance we can get, as part of your development plan, a comprehensive schedule plan for waterworks along the Revo that wouldn't be just a case-by-case basis, but maybe make it available utilities along the border? We're expecting some great things along there.
Mhm.
And I just wondered if it's included. If not, I would like to ask you to at least consider it.
Sure. We'll make that happen.
Yeah.
I think we need a point of contact, and then I'll go back to the
Yeah,
to the staff and ask.
So when the general manager and the engineering staff and operations staff was at our council meeting, we told them about that again. You're coming up later on as yours. We approved your recommendations. It's in those recommendations. So staff is passing them on to each and every person. I don't know that I can meet their engineering staff and others and they don't hear that from me as well. And I know you said water, but I know the bigger issue is really sewer service.
Everything.
Right, the bigger issue is really sewer service.
Along the corridor.
And yesterday, which will come out later informally, this board again put on a goal advocating for sewer service to be expanded in the town of Port Royal. One of our goals again, a little bit different, maybe not financing it so much as we have in the past, because it's getting harder and harder to find dollars, but certainly advocate for it. So yes, on that, David, thank you for that. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, David, so much. Appreciate all your. All right.
Next up is economic development. Obviously, we have Greg Shelton here sitting at the table, and hiding behind you is John O'Toole, so I'm sure he'll.
John,
wait till Greg.
you snuck in. You're fine, you do. Why don't you come around?
Okay, sneak.
You snuck in.
Sitting right behind you.
Yeah. Let me see. I see Ian has just walked in the room. Again, I'm looking forward. I'm not seeing everybody sneaking behind. What is it?
Yeah, I just took out the Rob.
Greg.
Okay, good morning. John's here to keep me in line to make sure that I don't misquote anything that he has misquoted before. So,
That's a great intro to your presentation, I'm sure you should.
yeah, what we're looking at right now is some of the slides that John and Charlie presented at the last board meeting about a week or so ago. Yeah, I'm going to speak to the ones that I got here with the cheat sheets you got. So one of the things that I think is pretty interesting, if we look at the next slide, is that overall on a cumulative basis, there's been $279 million of investment into Beaufort County, presenting 1,268 jobs with it. And we have $16 million of incentive money that's been put into the projects that have basically come to Beaufort County since John O'Toole has been at the helm of economic development. And that has added over $1 million square feet of additional space. So one of the things that I think is also interesting when you look at this is out of the $15 million of incentives and site development, Port Royal has been the beneficiary of about 11% of that, 11.6% of that. And that represents 7% of the overall salaries of the new jobs are here in Port Royal. And in terms of the new or absorbed square footage, Port Royal has also received about 14%, or it's about 14% of that. And it's good that John's here. I wasn't expecting John to be here, but he will tell you that one of my war cries on the board meeting is, what about Port Royal? So you'll see as we go through this. Excuse me.
It's such a great work, right?
It is a good
Just keep
work.
it.
But we have to seriously keep in mind that this is a Beaufort County initiative. And we look at Hull County, but my job is to represent Port Royal in that effort. 2 weeks ago, we took a tour around Beaufort County by car and looked at a number of the sites that are potential development sites, some of them which are at the Beaufort Commerce, where in the course of a year, and I couldn't believe it because when I first got on the board, John and I drove out to Beaufort Commerce and there was a concrete pad that he was talking about possibly a company coming in and they're going to put a building on it. We went there 2 weeks ago and there is this huge building on 64,000 square foot pad, and that same organization company, Magnus, is about to do 72,000 square foot pad up in that area as well. And all of the 64,000 square feet has been leased within the first year. So a lot of interest. If we go to the next slide, please. So the activity report is what are the sources? Where are the leads coming from? And I think one of the takeaways from this slide is that there's a lot of good activity from all of the sources. SCA, South Carolina Alliance, obviously, and then the direct leads that come to the county as a result of a number of different reasons. And if it's marketing, combination of marketing, advertising, and just people that are interested in coming here. So the only comment that I have about this that I would make, and it's good that Joe is sitting here, is that I think that the board members on economic development should be challenged to bring more than 7 opportunities to the table over this cumulative period. We should be looking for opportunities that either represent our own area or municipality, or that represents to the benefit of the community or the county. But I think that John should challenge the board members to be more active, participate in that effort. And I'm sure he'll do that. One of the other things I do want to mention, and I'm sure that it's been brought up before, is that all of the municipalities are equally funding the Beaufort Economic Development Corporation. And 2 things, I guess. One is that that's going to go up to $40,000.
That's the request,
The request for each of the communities, and 25 now, going up to 40.
Next one, please.
So again, well, 2 things here that are a number of things here that I think are interesting. One is this is a short-term, near-term projects pipeline accounting for 721 new prospective jobs. And out of that, one of the interesting ones is Product Tomato, which is a local tomato processing company who's putting additional investment into a package, adding package capacity to its current operation, which would result in about 69 jobs. And what was presented to the board at our last board meeting was a $175,000 job grant for those 69 positions.
Yes.
And that will be funded by economic development.
What's near term?
Well, that's exactly one of the things we need to define. I've said that is near term 6 months
So
or
year.
near term 24 months.
Yeah, we can go through it project by project,
Gotcha,
if you will. Tomato, Charlie just got their a worksheet back yesterday, so that's actually grown to 24 million. That's pretty much underway right now, so that's near term. The brewery project, this is in Bluffton, that's been announced, so that's underway. Air is a kind of I'll call it a Hail Mary type, it's a long shot, but it's another passenger carrying drone company out of Israel. So that's in the works. We're competing against Ohio, Georgia, and Texas for that project. The point person lives in Beaufort County, so I like their chances, but it's still, that's a long shot. Albany, this is a cosmetics company out of New York. They've been dragging tail, so hard to tell. Canvas is a good one to go over because they would like to locate in Port Royal, but we're being told by Safe Harbor, is there a Safe Harbor representative here? Nope. Okay, I'll speak more candidly, but I'll stand by what I say. This company would like to be in there, the buildings being prepped, it should be ready in April. Most developers like to have a tenant in hand. And they're saying, well, we're gonna wait until it's done and we've got to juggle things. So not being able to get a direct answer is a point of frustration. And so I really, if I left you with one thing today, I'm gonna go through the rest of the project, but anytime Port Royal does anything with the developer, you have to make sure, I just encourage you to leverage those requests for what Port Royal wants and deserves out of a developer. So that would be my point there. This company's ready to go. I've got another brewery project that would probably love to be in Port Royal, but we need to try to find a way to streamline answers and get direct answers. It's something we pitched.
And that's not of our staff, that's of the people that are.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna
What's that?
clarify I just wanted to clarify that that wasn't a staff, that's the developers.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I'm talking to the council, is to say that
We'll talk-
we
we'll talk to their-
gotta drive a hard bargain next time something's asked for to make sure that, and Van, you've heard it, and Noah heard it, and your planner before Noah has heard it, Brooks heard it. We try to make Beaufort County's brand simple, swift, and certain. And if the answer is no, we can move them somewhere else. But we don't mind if it's a quick no or a quick yes, but it has to be more prompt than what we're getting today. Sorry.
But they are framing the building now, and they've been actively working on that.
The canvas.
The canvas building, right.
Well, you call it the canvas building, but Charlie's calling them and saying,
The building safe, and that's.
but they're
They're not committed to the tenant.
They're not committed to that tenant. They may actually move one of
We
the
got somebody that was-
other tenants into that building. So that doesn't help the canvas company locate in your community. If, as the building's being built out, it's attractive that it's being framed. But if it's being framed for somebody else, that's not helpful.
Canvas needs to know that, right?
What's that?
Because Canvas needs to know that.
Yes, yeah. So I don't mean to, on a Saturday morning, go into a rant, but this.
Is there a plan B? So an additional.
We're already okay, maybe not that building, but let me show you this over here, we've got this opportunity.
We don't, yeah, Charlie's constantly talking to the real estate community to try to find that plan B. But this is, being in Port Royal at that site is their plan A. And, folks, back to the spec building that Greg mentioned, what makes our brand grow is the fact that before they had a certificate of occupancy, it was fully leased. And their first tenant has already asked them to potentially build a 220,000 square foot building. So most people who are doing development love to make that investment knowing that they've got a tenant. So there's something a little out of sorts here.
Good to know. Thank you.
So the other side of this, as we look at it, is that Project Air, which Johnny just mentioned, of the 462 jobs that are listed up there, that represents about 64% of the entire 721 projected. So if neither one of those electric flying vehicles, EVO allied vehicles, I mean, we can't drive on the road, now we're gonna drive up in the air, but okay. But that 64% of the jobs that we have listed there, so it's really important that we can get them to a decision, and that decision is within the county, but that's a lot of jobs, 62 jobs, tax revenue, income, all of the rest of it.
If you go I'll just go through the rest. The peanut
Yeah.
company, this gentleman's gonna take peanut shells and make heat pellets out of it, and that's a go. Comida, it's a large local restaurant group that's looking at doing a commissary kitchen and processing facility. That's just a question of where it's gonna go. Project Cloud, we had a meeting we've been working on this project for 5 years. It was handed off to me by John Remble in October of 2017. Had a meeting with the county, and Hilton Head this past week. And that looks like we're just gonna move forward with a determination from the Army Corps of Engineers. So near term, the yes will be near term, the Army Corps of Engineers will be slow. And then, so I'll just get through ceramic and go back. But ceramic is a local company that needs to move out of a Beaufort Jasper water and sewer facility. And they're looking at going into a spec building and potentially moving some of its New York operations to that facility as well. Sorry, Ken.
No. I was like, this is great. The majority of these companies, when they are looking to come here, is it build new? Are they looking for a facility that can be refurbished? Are they look, like what, I'm saying? Is it build their own new thing, or is it find a building that we can turn into what we're looking to do?
Usually they're looking to move pretty quickly. So
They need
having a
a
facility
facility.
matters. What we're doing at the Beaufort Commerce Park, Charlie, who's our senior project manager, Charlie Stone, does a great job. Is saying we need, if we have a building, we can fill it. And we can show you at Myrtle Business Park over in Bluffton, county-owned county, it's in Beaufort County, not in the town of Bluffton. Tim Dolnick has built 60,000 square feet there. He doesn't have a certificate of occupancy and the building is fully leased. So that's our experience. Just on Project Air, this is the Israeli drone company, and they're an interesting one because they don't need the high-level FAA approval. These are like they would be. You could buy this drone for $150,000, fly it where you like, fold up their wings, and push it in your garage. So I guess it fits into the FAA's experimental class. They expect it'll retail for $150,000. They're in conversations with a turf farmer in Ridgeland to use that space for improving the technology here in the US. So that's good news. But what they would probably look to do is have a construction facility, presumably in the Beaufort Commerce Park or in Yamasee or wherever they might locate in Beaufort County, and then a corporate space. And so as you're thinking of Port Royal and Beaufort County, and Darrell, you were at our Converge Summit, envision 5 corporate headquarters in the next 5 years in Beaufort County. And why not? As you revision Rebo Road or some location in Port Royal could be a great, a small headquarters or regional back office operation.
Okay. Yeah, just because they kind of, with Stoneworks, it was like that building, I mean, at one point that was a brewery, it was a big distributor. And they've come and refurbished that, but he said like having that building that's already there, and then you can kind of do whatever you need to do with the bricks and mortar that are there. That's good.
Yeah, sorry.
We have SkyDrive is the second company, and that one's over from Japan. And they're talking about, or last year they were talking about having a prototype here for next year. And they're literally working out of the landing pad at the digital corridor. So, I mean, it's pretty interesting when you think about it in terms of what could be. It's just a matter of, I'm sure there's going to be a long haul to get the regulations squared away so that they can do what they've got to do. But one of them was talking about providing an air taxi service from the airports to the town. So, the larger one from Japan has a 6-mile capability or capacity of traveling 6 miles. So after the 6th mile, parachute opens.
No. I'm glad I woke up early. I'm glad I got over here. No. There are some folks who think of this as the Jetsons, right? Yes. I think I'm sitting near one. I was at a conference in Phoenix where SkyDrive announced that they were going to set up Beaufort as its headquarters, Beaufort County. And so we've got an international press, but this is, you've got the Boeings and you've got a company called Joby and Archer, and this is near term. Now, why does SkyDrive, when an airline, even with gasoline, we're talking about electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. So eVTOL is the acronym. When they tell you what their range is, they're leaving 30% in the bank so that if you're unable to land right away. So I have to correct them on his parachute. The SkyDrive one does not include a parachute. The Israelis are going, like a Cirrus aircraft, if you're familiar, it will include a parachute, which intrigues me as somebody who might want to become an amateur pilot, to have that parachute there. And so the Israelis do have a parachute, but not the Japanese in their model. So.
John has promised to give me a new name tag when we have our board meetings, George Jetson. So,
It actually is a real thing. When you say people, if you had to do business here, you could land in Hilton Head. And at some point, you just kind of hop on a little thing and go fly over.
You
You're
come
here,
right over the Buford River. And
you're here in 10 minutes instead of an hour and a half of traffic.
Yeah. It's great.
And Jerry's asking me, but if you do want to look at this other company, it's called Air EV, and you can see YouTube demonstrastrations of they're flying unmanned right now. When they come to market, they will say manned. And obviously with the incident of the balloons and objects in the air, there's going to be more attention to what's overhead, I think, in the future.
Yeah, you don't want to F-35 shoot
Shut
that
down.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope, this slide just basically is a snapshot of 2022. You want to talk to anything that's up there in terms of kind of the year that we had versus maybe what we were expecting to have, but.
Yeah, well, our year's not over till July, and we try to be very transparent with our accomplishments in this year, lack thereof. One thing that we've been doing this for 5 years, and if you take the interruption of COVID, we had momentum, and then we kind of lost momentum because people couldn't get here to kick the tires. When my board sees yellow and red, they're concerned, and I think it is cause for concern. But when you go back to that near term, we're very confident that we'll fill these different job creation. We set a goal each year of 250 jobs. I believe we'll get close to that. Product development, this is where we identify sites to be developed. We shoot for 4 each year, and they're in different states. So we're looking at some 850 acres up in Yannansi that Ian Scott helped make the introduction there. Worth noting for Port Royal, and we can go through the percentages of all our projects north and south of the Broad if you like. But the landing pad is really a regional asset. We have a Japanese company there. In 2 weeks, we'll have a Vietnamese company at the landing pad. And the international attention we're getting with these companies coming here is, I think, going to have a multiplier effect. We have a South African company that's looking at coming to the landing pad. And when people get a taste of the region, and we probably have bumped into a lot of you there, and we continue to bring people into Port Royal when we have them at the landing pad. But
That's the North State landing pad.
it's the second floor of the
Buford Digital Corridor on Cardinal Street.
Yeah.
Great place if you haven't checked it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That landing pad, just for
Not
clarification.
necessarily where the electric.
It's not actually, yes, but no, it's, the same floor of the Buford Digital.
Yeah, and not to take a lot of your time, I do think the company, we've got to improve the dialogue between Safe Harbor. I just want to make a note, Greg and I both get an opportunity to serve on the task force Ian and the Regional Chamber of Commerce are doing for the reuse of the Naval Hospital. If you have questions, I defer to Ian, but the process is very constructive. This past week, Ian and the consultant had a meeting with the captain there, and the dialogue, the path we're on should give you a lot of confidence that we're in that Port Royal and Beaufort counties in good position on this. As far as redevelopment and things you're looking to do, Greg is an advocate for Port Royal. We do think that there would be more breweries that would locate here, and we do look at that as manufacturing and diversifying the economy. Maritime-based industries, we spoke to a company in Groton, Connecticut that does underwater exploration drones. That would probably be a great prospect for Port Royal, you know, if we can find them the location. And then headquarters, back office operations should fit into the re-imaging of Rebo and possibilities for our Port Royal as well, back office operations. So that's why I'm here. I'm really glad I came, Greg.
Well, we
It's always a
appreciate,
pleasure.
we appreciate your time. And Greg, thank you for serving on, being actively involved in what's happening there. If there's no questions from council.
That battle cry, what was that battle cry again?
What about Port Royal?
Amen, there you go, thank you.
If there's no questions from council, we'll move to Friends of Cypress Swell, right? Got next?
Yes, absolutely.
You can't.
I'm just saying.
Watching time also.
You go to Purdue, did you?
Yes, I did.
Look at your life.
Have you seen the golf?
Go Boilers, playing Indiana today. Good morning, Mayor, Council, and staff. As most of you know, my name is Scott Clark, and I'm the president of the Friends of Port Royal Cypress Wetlands. And I wanted to come today to give you a brief overview of the accomplishments that we've had over the past year and talk about our goals and objectives for the coming year. First of all, as all of you know, the Friends of Port Royal Cypress Wetlands was formed under the guidance of Pete Richards in October of 2019. The mission of our board is to support the cypress wetlands and rookery, increase community awareness through education, and to advocate for maintaining this stormwater retention system as an organic laboratory. Brooke, do you have?
We're trying.
Just working on it. Give us a second.
It's gone pop.
Close it, sorry, try again.
We talked about working on internet access yesterday.
Do you, I brought a thumb drive if that would work.
Just give me 1 second.
One of the issues with bouncing back and forth between Mac and.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There she.
All right. One more. Go to slide, you want to go to slideshow?
You got it.
That's when it froze when I went to slideshow,
Oh,
so I'm just
I
gonna
see.
keep it on the screen for.
Okay, so actually, next slide, please. So our accomplishments for 2022 are, go to the next slide. Very excited that after a 2-year hiatus, the Birthday for the Birds was back last year. It was wildly successful. See what I did there? We had over 150 people in attendance for the birthday party. It's where we were van dedicated the plaque to Pete Richards. The board also conducted numerous tours of the wetlands for the kids that were in attendance. And mark your calendars. This year's birthday party is going to be on April 29th. We also had periodic wetlands work days where the board partnered with volunteers from the Port Royal Sound Foundation and also the YMCA, where we went around and removed trash from not only around the wetlands, but physically in the wetlands, in the water. We also removed each time a lot of overgrowth from along the pathways surrounding the wetlands. And periodically throughout the year, this is kind of something that I've taken on. repair damaged boards on the boardwalk and tighten railing at the on the main boardwalk. We're also very proud to sponsor the second Saturday and fourth Friday, which is the Master Naturalist Guided Tours performed by or conducted by Jill Moore of More to Life. The tours continue to be free to the public, and they're more times than not, it sells out every single time. You can check out our calendar of events for those tours and actually sign up on our website.
Is there a charge for those?
There is no charge. We pay Jill for her time. We're also very proud that last year we added 2 master naturalists to our board, and through those 2 members, we developed a school education program and are contacting principals across North and Beaufort County for both in-classroom presentations and on-site guided tours. We also developed a Birding 101 program, and that will be launching in the spring of 2023. And one of our naturalists, Dan Fries, Saturday mornings, many of you may have seen him. He sits at the amphitheater and answers questions for the many people that come up there. And that's going to be starting again real soon, probably first part of March. And Dan also purchased and installed tree and plant identification signs located all the way around the main entrance. Main west.
Dan did those?
Dan did those, yes. We partnered with the town to install split rail fencing and slope stabilization behind the village shops. This was done for 2 main reasons. First one is safety to the public, keeping folks mainly on the path and out of the wetlands. And secondarily, it was to help control the what was a massive amount of erosion that was coming down that hill, going across the pathway and ending up in the wetlands. So thank you for the town for helping us with that.
You say the hill, you mean from?
Yeah, from village shops.
We're still able to catch it going off into the wetlands.
Yeah. Continue the program. We continued our program to purchase, print, and distribute educational materials promoting the wetlands. This includes the Cypress Wetlands Activity Book, which is a coloring book for kids, and also many of you may have seen our Cypress Wetlands brochures that we keep stocked over here at the amphitheater.
Kevin has another story.
Um,
Stay in the lines.
Thanks to a very generous donation from Wendy's R&D Moss, we purchased and installed 2 benches at the pavilion that honor Dr. Chris Marsh. Those are, if you haven't seen those, they're very cool over there at the pavilion. We're working with the town. We installed 3 designated parking spaces along Richmond at the pavilion. One of those spaces is an accessible parking spot. And the local Boy Scout troop made and installed 2 bat houses. Bat houses are very important bats are very important to the ecosystem for the wetlands. And so 2 of those bat houses were installed around the main wetlands. And the Friends of Port Royal Cypress Wetlands purchased and donated the copper weather vane that you see at the amphitheater. We also purchased, installed, and currently monitor 2 people counters located at the main wetlands. People counters are one thing that I found from doing the T-Mobile grant was every grant asks for how many people visit. They want to know how many people come. So we bought these 2 people counters and have them installed, and they've only been up for a month, but I thought this was certainly a lot higher than I projected in the T-Mobile grant. But currently, after a month's activity, we have 297 people a day are coming to the boardwalk with a peak of 368, and 166 people a day to the pavilion with a peak of 217. And I need to point out that the software, we're using a software called TrafX. It adjusts for, it only counts a person once. So it's not double counting. I thought those numbers were pretty impressive.
Scott, one second. So I wonder, going back, I know you were sitting here earlier, can we get Rob to geofence the Cypress wetlands?
Is that how it's counting?
He has,
Yeah.
Are you working with Rob
Yes.
on this?
Megan, who you mentioned a couple times, is on our board, and she's doing that, they're
Excellent.
doing
Okay.
geofencing as well.
Yeah, because he didn't mention that one. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We also purchased and installed and then donated to Van or to the town, the traffic counter at the Sands. This can be used in the future for any grants that the town may apply for. And this has only been up for 15 days, but this was shocking to me. 516 vehicles a day have been in the Sands. And again, that's an adjusted number, so they're only counting in visits. I assume those people that got in are gonna come out, so we don't count that twice, but
Most of them.
most of them, that's right. But very impressive, and I can't remember the exact number, I didn't put it down here, but I just took the reading on Friday, yesterday, and of course, Monday was a holiday. The number just spiked up on Monday, which is probably skewing that number quite a bit, but it was, I think the number was 1,700 or something like that. It was a crazy number. Next slide. Okay, goals and objectives for 2023. First one is we want to continue to work with the town to get the water control structure installed at the main wetlands. That's something we've been talking about for a while, and I know we've had some issues, but I'd like to get that done this year. Continue to improve safety and appearance at the wetlands by coordinating with the town to install more split rail fence. Our next goal is to do split rail on the wetland side of the pathway from the amphitheater around as far as we can go. I just think it's a safety thing, I think, but two, it really added to the beauty of the whole area. Hope you guys agree with that. We're going to continue to coordinate with the town on the maintenance of the wetlands, including controlling the duckweed. We get a lot of complaints about that. The monitor and control of the tallow trees, which grow in the islands. And then I'm going to continue to monitor the boardwalks and amphitheaters and make recommendations to Van on an as-needed basis for any repairs that we may need there. Also, we're going to continue to forward our mission by seeking and applying for any available grant for the wetlands on behalf of the town. Continue to focus on fundraising, strive to increase tourism to the town in two ways. One, by getting Port Royal designated as an important bird area by the Audubon Society, and also to register the wetlands as a certified rookery in Beaufort County. We're going to continue to reach out to local service organizations to advocate for the wetlands and the importance to the environment and to tourism. Continue to sponsor the Master Naturalist Program. This is something that we've partnered with Jill on and Jill Moore, and it's been very successful. We're going to continue that. Expand our school tour program and our Birding 101 program. Expand the Friends social media presence by continuing to do daily posts. And maintain the what's happening at the wetlands kiosk up here, the kiosk closest to the police station. In conclusion, I'd like to tell you that we've enjoyed working with the town, specifically Brooke and Van, over the past year, and I'd like to thank Van for his dedication to the wetlands and to his commitment to our organization. I'm certain that the town appreciates all the planning, contract negotiations, and project management that the organization continues to shoulder. Fall on him. And we continue to work on this, work with the town for years to come. Lastly, I would like to give everyone an update on the ethics violation case that was brought against Bernadette Clayton. The Ethics Commission concluded that there was absolutely no probable cause or ethics violation committed by Bernadette, and therefore the case has been dismissed without cause. But that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I'd just like to say that, that the attention that's been brought to the Cypress wetland has been wonderful. And there's never a day that you ride down here that you don't see 10 or 20 people standing there
Yep.
ready to go through.
Yep.
That's one of the big points as you enter Port Royal. So y'all need to be commended for the job that y'all done and continue to do. You know, we appreciate it. I think the schools are really enjoying it. And, you know, if there's anything else we can do to help, let us know, because I think this is very important for Port Royal to show the people what it's about. And the traffic at the Sands, putting that counter up, just tells us that this isn't even summer yet.
Right.
I mean, for the Sands and for the wetlands, it's
Right.
gonna.
The first week that traffic counter was up at the Sands, it was cold last week.
Yeah, you had that traffic.
And we still have that traffic.
Well, y'all are doing a great job, and thank you for bringing the attention to the wetlands and doing what you've done in the wetlands. And, you know, we know you're gonna be successful, and we
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Sir. We hope to have a really good year this year with school tours. And Dan, and we also have another board member. We had a master naturalist leave us. He had a grandchild, so they moved up to Spartanburg or someplace like that. So we added another master naturalist to our board, Jen Clementoni. She lives out on Harbor Island. Her and Dan are going to be taking the lead on the school program and the Birding 101 program. It's going to be.
Well, even the smaller children, I have a 16-month-old, and I take him and show him the alligators, and at 16 months, he will look down and say, alligator, alligator. So I think even the young children seeing the birds and all, and the turtles, and it's just amazing to see that much in one area. And I'm glad that everybody for years said the birds wouldn't come back. Well, guess what? The birds are back.
Yes. I echo what she says. It's one of my favorite places that I frequent weekly. And I've even done a couple of videos and posted them, and people across the state tend to love that. And I always get a comment about, where is this?
Where is this? That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Jerry, you had something?
Yeah, a comment and a question. You talk about duckweed. Duckweed is a sign of a healthy farm. So
Right.
long as it's in
It
moderation,
is.
I think we need to be educating people like that.
Which I
So many
do,
benefits.
yeah. I explained it to folks that is a sign, but they look at it and they think it's just scum is what, so.
Smallest blooming plant in America.
And then secondly, man, I know we used to have Bridget get down into biologists, get down into cypress wetlands and just give us updates from time to time. Are we doing anything like that now?
She does we typically do a species update like once a year, and it's typically right around the bird.
Okay. Okay, she's just a naturalist biologist. And I'm glad to hear we're continuing that. Thank you. Well done, Scott.
Thank you.
I'll say, oh, quick question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say, reiterate everything that they said. And, I think you'll do a great job. I told you that, how you handle your organizations also. I was gonna just say something. I wonder if there's an opportunity with, we were just talking about the hill, that little area. If there's something, because you're on the Cypress wetlands, and then right there is, and it tees up perfectly, the historic Port Royal Foundation right there, which essentially I see is like the museum of Port Royal. And one of the coolest things about it is the history. Like if there's something, and I don't know if it's stairs or something that just, when you're there, like, because right now you walk by and there's like the fences up, which I think the fence is great, but you can see the museum's right there. What if there was something that kind of took you up in there? So it's like,
I can comment a little bit on this with Scott's help, and they asked me, the property owner doesn't want that.
Well, there you go.
It's a private piece of property. We hope to keep expanding on that. If
Gotcha.
that level of discussion
That's a good answer
happens.
to know.
They were,
Effort was made.
effort was made.
Numerous times.
Numerous people, numerous,
Gotcha.
we tried, and
Can we not put a sign even though, just a little sign, little wooden sign that says Port Royal Historic Foundation there?
They post one on every day out there. The secondary issue that we have when we open up that is going to, that whole parking lot slopes towards the wetlands. So all of that erosion from, and fines from the parking lot end up going that way. So if we open it back up again, it's just gonna bring the problem right back.
Oh, no, and thank you, like I said, it's good to know.
It's one we work on.
There's the,
There's always an opportunity as properties change
Yeah.
to be able to revisit that, so.
gotcha. Well, good.
Scott, thank you, everybody involved with you, you guys are doing an amazing job. I'm so appreciative of taking on the number count as well, that's important information for us as we move forward.
It's a gym.
Yep.
Like, thanks for the-
We're gonna go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break while we set up next for the Historic Port Royal Foundation, so quick 10 minutes. I don't know if there's a slow 10 minutes or a quick 10 minutes, but it'll be 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Next up is Van Sora Coral Foundation, right?
Yes, we have, Pam Courtney, and Pete Cotter, I'm not sure who's,
Right here.
Pete's right there.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you all because a year ago when I came here, I was still living in a suitcase. I didn't know where I was. And I came to town hall to talk to you all and did this real quick PowerPoint from Columbia and came on in. So I want to thank you so much for your making me feel welcome. I want to thank Van for providing some space for me, that down there. I just want to, it's all been, this past year has been about building relationships, and that's about community. Anyway, if the first slide there. So there's been a whole lot of things about building, that I've looked at, and one of the things is tracking. And if you look at our numbers here, we're only open 4 days a week now. We'd like to expand it, but you can see that we're beginning to track stuff. So when you come and say, Pamela, how many you had from Beaufort County, we can tell you, and we can tell you what the predominant zip codes are from our area that are coming in for just from our visitors. Next slide. Okay. And so then here's our national and international. So when I came before you last year, we had 3,000 visitors. This in 2021 and 2022, you can see we had 3,511. And despite having that gas spike that prohibited people from traveling in the summertime, we still had that. If you'll look at the year before, we had 3 countries. This last year we had 13, which tells you a lot, about who's coming in. And our South Carolina numbers, you can see is 2003, and we've tracked them by the state. So we've only got 2 states that were not representative coming into the museum. So that's, so we've got that. Next slide. And so this is a larger one for you to look at also, and then to see who our next, which states are predominant coming in here, which might kind of surprise me a little bit. But Pennsylvania we have a lot of travelers coming in, visitors coming in Pennsylvania, as you can see. I kind of expected it to be, Virginia or Tennessee, but it's Pennsylvania that is our next big one. So if we're in North Dakota, if you've got any friends there, tell them that we need to cover up that gray spot in here. In Wyoming, I swear that we had people in from Wyoming, but we evidently did. But as you can see, we're starting to track these. Last year when I came to you, we had membership of 52. As of today, we got 115. Our docents a year ago were 4. We've doubled that to 8 in our climbing. Next slide. So just a couple of things, accomplishments in 2020, 2022, really, really proud of, is that we've added 2 board members. Pete is one of those, and we're also working on an advisory board, and the advisory board comes from different places in the community, whether it is IT, business, legal, and everything, to advise the current board on with their expertise on directions that we should go. And I think that that's really a very solid way to kind of keep things guided there. And then what that creates, and as I said, this whole last year has been a lot about building relationships for me, but credibility of HPRF, and then working with the town and how we can seek funding, and creating the new museum that we have come to you and chatted with you about. And then we've also instituted the first building fund, and in beginning the negotiating a purchase option agreement for a potential new site. And then the other thing is transitioning the current board from a working board to a governing board. And that is, I probably should say it with an ING on the transition, because that is transitioning from that process, of saying, that it needs to be a governing board instead of a working board. Next slide. So 2022, what did we do here? We increased the number of docents and developed docent training, and I rewrote part of the manual on that training. I also had Larry Rowland come in and spend 2 hours with the docents. So So when you come into the museum, you're gonna get the same dates from everyone. You know, it's not gonna be.
Not a whole lot either.
I said it there enough, you know, like that, where I said, okay, we need to be all, you know, on the same document, that we're not even saying 1562, if it's 1514, we're gonna, you know, everything's gonna be
Don't
spot
let the
on.
truth get in the way of a good story.
That is, I mean, let's not bend this, you know, but anyway, so that's a great, and they absolutely loved it, so we're gonna have more of these follow-up, things and one of the other things I'm going to develop here in 2023 for them is to be like a CEU, CME type credit that they read so much out of his book, take an open book exam, multiple choice, no pressure, but that keeps everything very fresh and alive. It keeps them interested, you know, field trip type of activities. The other thing is in November, designing and implementing the first Indigenous exhibit that we had, and that was run during Indigenous Month. That received an incredible amount of feedback because we did have a large Indigenous population here at one time, and just start bringing that out to the forefront. The designing of a permanent Port Royal 1870 to 1900 exhibit that was done through, that planning part was done through a grant. Developed a new website this year and created the logo. And then they developed the oral history project, and that was something that HPRF had discussed evidently for several years. So the first thing I did was put Sam on as being the first person that would be interviewed. And the day that he was to be interviewed, we had everything set up, he went to the hospital. And so it was very, very sad that we missed that opportunity to get him on tape. So the next thing I did was to get Henry Robinson on and did that interview process with him. And I'll talk about it a little bit more, but that was the thing to move him into that position. And we start, you know, getting these people on tape that the public can go to our website and, you know, plug in and listen.
That's great.
And then we also had the Christmas tour of homes. A lot of you were involved in that, and we thank you for your participation in it. And we're looking at doing that again this next year. And the podcast began doing those in 2022. We started tracking our school children and field trips where we had 120 local elementary schools for museum tours and activities. And from that, particularly for the Indigenous exhibit, I developed a curriculum that went back with the children, not, you know, they did their art project on site, but the teachers then had a curriculum that they went back, and each child had their own curriculum stapled and taken back that they could then go do into the classroom implementation of Indigenous people in the area and some cultural issues also. And then we also worked with the Y this last year in their migrant children's program. We had children coming in and they brought them over where we developed a program with them, and it was absolutely delightful. I would say we had about 15 children at that point. Next. So the 2023 project, March the 9th, which is the 149th, will be the unveiling of that Port Royal exhibit. And that is currently underway. The lecture series, and I sat down with Larry and asked him if he would lend his name to our lecture series to be ongoing. So I did it before anybody else would credit. So the lecture series is called the Dr. Lawrence S. Rowland Lecture Series. It brings in people from different, with different expertise, but his name is now attached to Port Royal as being part of
That
that.
carries weight. I mean, it's
Pardon?
I said that carries weight.
It does, yeah, it does. I'm very pleased with him. So the one on March the 23rd, when I first came down here and everybody's talking about the deep water, while we had it. And I could never get an answer from it, why. And I thought it was probably something from the Younger Dryas period. And I contacted our geologist in Columbia who put me in with Will Dorr, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, it's not Younger Dryas, which is 10,000 years ago to 12,000. He said it goes back 180 million years ago, our relationship Port Royal, does." And he is coming in on March the 9th, and he's going to talk about why we're so fantastic, that what makes us great, why we have this wetlands out here, why we have the deep water when we were still connected to Africa. He's going to go through this whole thing, which to me is great for our tourist industry and everything else as we all become more educated on what makes us fantastic. I've set up all of these lecture series to be at St. Mark's. That keeps it here. The acoustics are good. It's quaint. It may be limited in seating, but I think that first out the door, that is probably the best thing for here in the community. And then June 8th.
Will they be recorded?
Pardon?
Will they be recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know about Roland and Wise yet because of copyright issues there.
But
The first one, yes. And then Roland and Wise will be in on June 8th and 9th. And then we're skipping over the summertime months, and then October the 26th, which is the last Thursday, USC from Lancaster, the Native American Indigenous Studies Program, the 3 guys will be coming in and talking to us about Indigenous of the Low Country, and they're fun and entertaining, but really spot on. So that's what we're going to be doing, 4 lecture series. Then the USS Port Royal Collection, during this past year, have come to know 2 of the former commanders of the USS Port Royal. I'll ask you, working with Congresswoman Mace and the Department of the Navy. The USS Port Royal, of course, was decommissioned in September, and the container is, as we were speaking, is being unloaded in Richmond, Virginia, which is an Army warehouse that the Navy has to depend on. I have written to Department of the Navy and through a Congresswoman asking for 15 items from the USS Port Royal, which would come here permanently, including, officers' mess, silverware, the bell, all those other things that if I get one thing, it'll be delightful. But because of that, one of the commanders has been here, the other one lives in Las Vegas, and they're starting to send out their personal collections of every item that they have, which I'm just compiling this box of stuff. But I just brought down one of the flags that one of them brought. We're now going to have things that no one else has. I don't care if it's a maritime museum or what, because these commanders have got such a personal interest of saying, we don't want our things that we collected to go into a dumpster because our children don't want them. So we want to, we said it belongs in Port Royal. So I'll keep you up to date as we go on with that part of it.
Would a resolution or proclamation from council assist you in getting that information, getting those items?
Well, it's in the works, that come the first part of March will be the next call that will go in and say, all right, has that container, been unloaded? Can we have these items? And the guys at the Navy Yard in Washington, DC, they all told me, they said, our desks are 150 feet apart from one another. You'll get an answer. Okay. And I said, how will we get those things? And they said, we don't know. We've never done this before. I said, it's okay. We'll figure it out.
We'll go get them.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, that's.
So let us know if you need us to help in any way.
Absolutely.
Wasn't that the recent, I think the Historic Beaufort Foundation just purchased at the auction that?
The piece of silver.
Yeah, and it's like the Cup of Port Royal, I think it's called,
Yeah.
Where are they gonna put that?
No. I mean, I've been asked the same thing about our things. I said, we'll worry about it when it gets here, when we get some better things. But right now, we've got, yeah. The other thing that we are now discussing would be the implementation of a college scholarship program, which would be awarded in 2024, the 150th, and that would go to Beaufort County senior here that is either going to be going to study history, maritime history, something in geology, something that is specific to the low country, but that is, we have agreed upon that. The other thing that we have gone through is a grant, and that is the Past Perfect software. And that will now allow us to track all of our donations, every item that has a museum, and we can actually sit there and take a photo of it, and you can look on it online, rotate that item and look at it. But that, it'll take care of our membership. It's just an incredible piece of software. We're not exactly sure how we're going to operate it, but we now have it, and that's our goal. The other part is digitizing any of our photographs. It's very, very important that we not lose any of our history, and that it does go into a digital format, which would then go onto our website. And then also to work with our educators in our elementary schools and developing curriculum with guidance from our teachers and saying, what is it that we can do to help you and lighten your load, particularly say the 4th grade when they start studying South Carolina history, that we're working hand in hand, realizing that, you know, they have got budgetary shortfalls and, that sometimes that they just don't have the supplies and needs that we can work with them to develop really strong programs with the kids. The Oyster Shucking Girls Project, again, I just put that in there, and that is off of a 2023 program that probably is going to go into the next 2 years. We're sometimes always familiar with little pictures of the kids that became famous at the turn of the last century, the little girls and everything. And I have looked at every museum and saying, what happened to those children and what is the real story? Because we all tell, I've heard enough of the parents that come in that point to the kids and saying, if you'd lived here back then, and you know, and the kid, I mean, and I've heard it so many times, and I said, all right, so what we found out sort of in this brief history and also working with the Jonis, that wasn't this old poor me story is not quite the story. So we're going to put this into a project and an exhibit that tells the real story like that of what happens. Smithsonian doesn't even talk about it, but we'll have a thing about how proud these children were to be helping support their families here at Port Royal and other parts of it. And that they felt like they were major contributors to their family situations, much like the children that were raised on farms. The other thing is expanding on our podcast. I've already done one with Daquan Mickens a couple of weeks ago. The other thing that we've done is now implement QR codes on everything. So you can walk up to our door, and it goes right onto our website. And then the other plans are for the 150th birthday of Port Royal. Next slide.
All right, hold on before you go on.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 150th birthday.
Okay, yeah.
Before you go on, we can do it now, we can do it at the end if you want to finish the last two, but that is a subject we want to talk
Okay.
about. So go ahead and finish and then.
So anyway, this is just the 2023, you see the USS Port Royal's part in our thing, the Oyster Shucking Girls and like that, and then you see the beginnings of the new exhibit, which will be unveiled March the 9th, and there are glass towers that will be implemented, the interactive map there, so visitors coming in will be able to see where the old railroad was, where the phosphate loading was, where the docks were. You can push on a button and it's going to light up. It's very interactive. And then both of those cabinets on the other side of them is pull-out cabinets, so you can pull out these individual scenarios. 6 of them are kid-friendly, speaks kid language, so they can kind of get an idea of the sights and sounds of smells of what it was probably like to work down there in the docks. And it's in that, where there's also glass towers on each end of them, you know, which are coming under completion, but that's been the part of the project. Okay, and so, do you want to talk about the 150th?
Yeah, you really need to get more excited about this.
Sure.
Full emotion, I'm really gonna get on, get with it.
And we can start the conversation with, you know, do you think that the Historic Foundation and the board and its volunteers are willing to take that project on to plan a celebration along with the town?
Yes.
Okay, that like, we're
Yes.
trying to decide.
We're excited about it.
We're excited
Yes.
about it. Who's
Yes.
gonna do it?
Yes.
Do we have to-
Head it up.
Do we have to stand up a committee? Are you willing to do that and we don't have to stand up a new committee and we'll work with?
Can we
you?
work jointly?
Absolutely. It's
Okay,
the idea of doing this stuff, but
absolutely.
we needed a group of people. Staff can't take on that level. They're busy and, you know, we had a lot of conversations over yesterday about staffing levels and how much they're doing, and that's not a task that I think we can put on them and then do it justice. So we like, who's the best? And we, council, all kind of leaning towards you guys. So we're glad you had it on your slide
Yes,
and
well, yeah.
are willing to, and we'll.
We can definitely go find some people.
Right, we'll get back together and then we'll decide if it's
I
an
mean,
ad hoc.
we get a committee together.
Right, it's an ad hoc
And
committee,
there's-
your board committee, and what do we need, we need to do this.
To make it fair, the last thing you want is two groups doing two different
Right, we
things, so
wanna
we wanted to just kind of.
Bring this together and do this right.
Oh, that'll be, yeah.
Perfect. So-
That's exciting, and that looks like, I mean, what a great celebration. We've got some things that we've been chatting about already.
Great.
You know, one of those things also talking about, when we're talking about, Larry Rowland, that there would be some kind of lecture series for 2024, which we can also tie in at that point. I do want to sit down and talk to him, you know, about what he would envision also to keep, to keep that, so he can be proud of Port Royal that he has his name now attached to our lecture series, and it's something that's really meaningful for everybody that we can agree on, plus whatever else that we've got going on, whether it's a, you know, a bike race, whether we're doing a Spanish Moss Trail, we've got so many things that we can do to work together. And I do appreciate your questions about the stairwell between, you know, the wetlands. We did see a decrease in our, for a little while, they've come back, and he was absolutely correct. On Monday, if we had been open, I just happened to be in there working, stream of visitors, just right, that wetlands has allowed us to come up with a sign which will be hung on the inside of the rail fence that just says Historic Port Royal Foundation in the rust-colored building. Like that.
No, it's just good to put that out there because people
Yes,
ask about it, just so people know, it's
yeah.
like, well, there's actually a property owner right here that says no.
That's right, that's right. So I mean, it's been really great, and everybody's worked with that. So I'm gonna turn this now over to Pete for the next couple slides.
Well, and this particular slide also impacts on what we're just talking with 150th, okay? We're transitioning our board from strictly a working board of relatively few volunteers now into a more of a managing board. So we're recruiting new board members. We're beginning to get into serious approach to fundraising, which they've never done before. And I'm going to say tactfully, Pamela's been a workhorse for a year. She's been a quote, part-time person working 30 hours a week, doing more like 60 to 80. Okay? We've made tremendous progress in getting our presence in the community known and building contacts, building relationships, okay? Many of which he briefly ran through here like a speed demon here a minute ago, but even like we're talking to the Majonies out of Savannah as an example, okay? That's all time. Talking with Captain Adler from the Port Royal. All of these things take time to develop, and as we also have to develop our board and our fundraising, and we're making plans for like the 150th. So bottom line, we're asking for more financial support, number one, to help not just with having Pam full-time, plus more support help beyond that, because it's the clerical help in the background to maintain things moving while you're out making these contacts is important. So at the same point, we're working with the town towards developing grant capability towards getting a larger building, hopefully across the street. There's a lot of pieces going together right now, okay? I'm excited about it. I'm putting an awful lot of time learning more about Port Royal than I ever knew, okay? And the more I dig, the more entertaining it's getting. I mean, there's a world out there of information if you dig deep enough. And the education process, the people coming in, I'm gonna say tactfully, it's very rewarding if you spend time there. Because one of the classics was after one of the field trips with Port Royal Elementary, to have a young guy come in with his younger brother and his parents, and the kid gave him a tour.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and I mean, explained the exhibit, okay? That makes you feel like you're doing something, okay? With the 150th, my big concern is to make sure we all are in the same wavelength upon how long we take over the course of the year to have events, so it's very well planned and coordinated because of both of our restricted assets of how we can properly use them to the best advantage for the year-long celebration. Okay, so I would advocate, yes, have another committee working with us to help. The process would be productive, okay? The more people we can get involved, the better. But Pam's worked with a number of things already, even the idea of having, with Beaufort Yacht Club doing a major regatta based here, okay? With Safe Harbor about doing a big boat regatta based here, which is, I'll say, a different world. When you're talking the big boats, you're talking a whole different level of economics and benefit we can pull in from that. So not to take too much time rattling on here, but it's been a very transformative year we've had. I'm very enthusiastic about what's going to come after this. And I'm also very appreciative of the town and the town staff working with us the way you have.
Questions,
Please.
council?
No, I agree with you. It has been a very transformative year. Thank you all for what you do. I like I said, look at it. I mean, it's our museum, and the history of this area is so unique and important. So thank you all for keeping that conversation going. I mean, history dies when you don't talk about it. So thank you all for that.
There's more than.
Yeah, so thank you all for
There's
keeping that
more than we
conversation
did.
going.
This is just scratching the surface this past year.
That's great. Appreciate it. And you use the word entertaining, you're finally starting to understand the far from ordinary portion of our motto.
Oh, yeah.
Aspect in that way. No, we really appreciate all that you've done. It seems that there's more and more people that are asking for it and wanting to go down there and have heard about it. And I think that's great. We're excited to see where you go, and we're going to help us as much as possible. Because the partnership between the Cypress Wetlands, you and the town is almost symbiotic, and we need to keep expanding on that because it's one of the big attractions. Is getting people into the Cypress Wetlands and then checking out the history that's right there and why, and now understanding why the Cypress Wetland even exists.
That's
Will
right.
even be another big
That's
piece of
it.
that. It's part of the history in
Absolutely.
that aspect. So I'm excited to see the next steps that you guys go, and we'll do everything we can. We understand your funding requests. Trust me, there's people on that side of the table that are writing down every one of these funding requests that are coming across to start developing a budget. That's why we moved this up a little bit. That's why we're doing it this way, so that we can have all this stuff in time to start developing a budget, which basically starts now. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes as well.
And another thing, last parting thing too, we talked with Mary Beth a couple minutes ago is a great example. We need to encourage long-term residents to get more involved with us, provide, I'm going to say, family collections. You've got a wealth of photographs and information that we need to gain that knowledge and hopefully permission to have, I'm gonna call, a collection, okay? Which would be, say, your family history and photographs, which has got information attached to them, so it's trackable and identifiable. And we can build that into our collections. And if we get more and more of the long-term families here coming into us with that information, that we can credibly digitize it and get it into a system, that's how we're gonna have a long-term result. And we're losing people, so we need to be doing that.
I can't get my shoes. The shoes you have down there are the ones I gave.
Oh,
The
great.
ones in the Shepherd storage?
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic. The other thing that we have also developed this past year is a relationship with the Appleton Foundation. And they have sent down about 12 documents signed by Appleton. And also his son, they just were kind of enamored, not knowing that we even existed. But they have limited funds, they have, they would like to supply us with more things. I've invited them to come down, to come visit Port Royal, and they can see. So as I said, it's been a year of building relationships and
That's great.
everything. So that's another area.
That's what we're gonna do, like having like places local families, then you've been here for
But thank you.
generations.
Thank you so much for letting
Thank
me.
you for all that you do. All right, where are we, man?
We are Parks and Rec, and see John Hayden. Moving to the table.
John, look carefully at the view of the camera, it shows the seat appropriate.
You are correct, sir.
You're good, John.
I mapped that out before while I was sitting back there.
The little recon on the room.
That's right.
Check it out.
Dan is Brand is the cutoff man.
Let me move my bottle.
They can't see what's in it.
So good morning, everybody. Whoever set this schedule up, I appreciate you putting me after the Historic Foundation, setting me up for failure. Expectations are low here. So over the last year, we've been doing our maintenance checks, which have cultivated us in replacing the slide at Naval Heritage Park, because it was busted, did some repairs, to the Public Works did repairs to the ship out there. We also, Public Works removed the top portion of the fence out of John Parker Park, that batting cage fence. The top part of it was falling down, that's been removed, so we've done some, had, Public Works do some maintenance out there. We're still hoping to find a home for the rowing club, that's still on our purview and going forward, with, now that the town has been able to get all the shrimp boats removed, and we can build, renew that dock, maybe we can find a home from there, I don't know, I'll leave that up to the town.
Just let you keep that conversation going and keep it going with us, because where Van said yesterday that we're relooking at the plan as far as what was going to be built there, and is there better utilization for the dock? We're definitely going to have a shrimp dock there.
Yeah.
Does it all need to be shrimp dock or some day docking? Is there a way to do the rowing club? Absolutely, we want you to keep that and work with them and understand what is their needs so that we can pass that on from that aspect. And Van happens to have a neighbor that knows an awful lot about rowing.
Yeah.
That's more than willing to help.
Big rower, so yeah.
Yeah, more than willing to help in that aspect also. I think you had said one time, right, he was willing to help in that conversation, so keep that one going, John.
Yes, sir. The majority of our year has been spent researching and interviewing the companies for the outdoor gym, which Brooke has just given me an update on. Hopefully, at the beginning of next month, they'll lay the foundation for that so that the cement can cure, and then we can get the gym set up there. So we're excited about that.
This is Naval Heritage Park.
Yes, sir, Naval Heritage Park. It's gonna be behind the ship, probably closer, heading towards the city of Beaufort. Also, we've done some talking about a living fence out at Naval Heritage, because that ship is just less than a stone's throw from probably the second busiest road in Port Royal, and it doesn't take much for a kid to dart out there, so we could put up a living fence out there, it would make it look nice and while providing protection to the kids that are playing out there.
Thank you.
And we're getting a price on that right now. We're just talking to the guy that we maintained to do all those repair work.
So, yeah.
No, I'm saying the day we even talked about it and put it up, I've been talking about
Worried
it
about that
because I
issue.
worry about those children playing and.
Yeah. We also had a young man from the Eagle Scouts come and do a presentation for us. He's working on a badge and, he's doing some, community service. And he wanted to set up parking spots, and then this plan has evolved, from barriers to parking signs. And he's gone out, he's collected money, he's collected, materials from different companies, and what he's doing is he's making probably 8 or 9 skateboards, and he's giving one to each school to have them paint, then decorate, and then that's gonna be the parking sign, so there'll be designated parking spots, and that'll be the barrier for the parking spots at the skateboard park. Yeah, so it's kids doing a lot, he's really got a desire to get involved in the community, and I think it really, I've seen a picture of it, and it looks really good, what his concept is.
That's also something that Kevin and I, a few of us have been talking about. As this gets to the end, at some point, bring him before council.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Before we pull the trigger.
Bring him before council, introduce him to us, let us meet him, show us what he's doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Some recognition.
Some recognition for what he's doing. We really
Absolutely.
definitely want to do that.
The presentation when he gave that, he just kind of came up with that on his own. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
It just like, he came in, it was just like, I gotta do a community project and this is what I want to do at the skate park because I've hung out here and this could help out. I was like,
Yeah, like I said, it's evolved from that, because we were just thinking concrete barriers, and now it's looking a lot better.
And there's an attorney here, well, he's actually in Beaufort, his kids skate a fair amount. And he and I were talking about that side and how the sand and the materials migrate from there onto the skating surface. So he has expressed willingness to help donate material once we get this park stops in, to kind of gravel to knock down the.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Also, we had an organization brief us on something they'd like to partner up with the town with, is a story walk out at Naval Heritage Park, where with the library would donate a book, and they would rotate the books once a month, and different stations. The book would be the same book on 12 different stations, however many pages it is. But it would be open to a different page, and kids could walk, parents could take their kids and walk through and read a story as they're walking through. So they came and briefed us on that.
Around reading books.
Yeah. It would be funded by the Beaufort Library. They were just wondering if the town would cover the cost of installation. So. We're eagerly awaiting guidance from the town on the new park out of the sands. So that's going forward. We're looking, just waiting for guidance on that, on what type of park the town would like to see there. Kevin's been in contact with a local resident who has a great idea that I'm going to bring up to the commission at our next meeting about a volleyball court out at the sands as well. Wouldn't take but 2 4x4s and a net out there. They're also interested in starting a beach volleyball league. So going forward next year or this year, that'll be something else that we're looking into.
Pickleball is taking over the world, so he's gonna have a pickleball court.
That's happening.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. So if anybody has any questions?
So the question I have is, well, one is just thank you so much, and it's great, like, with the boards and commissions, like, to see, I mean, the gym that's being built, I mean, it's like tangible, it's like,
Right.
yeah, that was Duty Hill's work and getting grant, that's great. What, is there any, like, what is, like, is there a part that's a consistent issue, or there are things that you just see when you're doing your maintenance checks, like, that just over and over, like, this is always a problem here, always, like, you know,
Sure,
and that's probably just, probably the ones that get the most traffic, I'm sure.
right, well, you got the ones that get the most traffic, and, who was it that briefed first? I think his name was Rob from the Greater Beaufort Port Road. Yeah, Rob, that might be something that we look into and see if we can geofence the, I'm speaking outside my box. Fence off those areas and see how much activity each park gets, because I mean, we can drive by and we can walk through the parks, but, you know, that doesn't give us a proper estimate on how often those parks get used. I would probably say, based on some of the information I've heard through today, the Sand takes a lot of business. Driving by the Naval Heritage Park, I see that always, you know, there's always stuff going out there. Anytime I go out there, kids are skating at the skate park, there's kids on the ship out there. I drive by Lenore, and there's, every now and again, you'll see kids out there, but I don't live out there, man.
I do.
Yeah.
I basically can't come home in the afternoon without seeing one or two kids on the.
But honestly, I think the John Parker Park could use an upgrade, especially on the toddler playground.
Okay.
I think that would be something that should definitely use an upgrade before any other park.
Do you have a listing of all your parks and a short term and a long term, a long range goal for these? For upkeep of those?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Do you have, of course, a listing of all of your parks?
Yeah, we have a list of all of
And
our parks.
also a short term goal and a long range outlook on, you know, the upkeeps of those parks.
Not
Immediately.
short answer, no. Basically, what we've been doing is just once a month we go out there and we check the parks, and any maintenance that we see, you know, anything that is broken or any upkeep that needs to happen, we compile that list and we submit it to Dan, which gets submitted to Public Works. But if that's something that you'd like us to do is,
And it would be nice to have also, so you can, it's before us on the, you know, all your parks, you can look at the ages of the park and so forth, and what's an immediate need, and what's our long range need for this? Do we have someone that's certified in playground equipment that can look at these parks and tell if they're, you know, safe and
Right.
and so the town's not liable when it comes to injury or anything?
okay,
Do we
yeah.
have anyone that's available?
I don't know. I mean, my interaction is with Dan and Brooke, and it gets passed down to the Public Works. I don't know, the public, I can assume and hope that somebody on Public Works has,
Playground certification?
yeah, but on the commission, no, we don't.
Okay.
We do not have a playground certified employee.
Okay.
There might be something.
Yeah. We have people, you guys check the maintenance, our guys. certified.
Yeah.
So,
That's the extent of it.
Didn't we recently just do some upgrades down at John Parker down at Casablanca too with some fencing?
yeah, replace
Yeah,
fencing,
yeah.
replace benches, did some painting,
Yes.
so yeah, a fair amount,
It's a light.
yeah.
Done a lot of upgrades down, we still got here, you know, and some toddler equipment and stuff, but we haven't, we put a lot of effort into
But
that.
you all have done a great job. I do commend you all for what you've done and what you all will continue to do. So I do commend you. Thank you for your volunteering and taking on that task.
I've got a little bit of something outside the box, John.
All right.
Okay. You and I have had conversations in the past. You certainly want to be more than just somebody who does inspection and reports maintenance. You've started to do that. You've changed some things that you're doing, what you guys do with the Heritage Park and what we're doing there and some other aspects. That's great. I'm wondering whether if you and your commission could think about the possibility of expanding and maybe taking on one or two of the town festivals that we plan to take a, maybe, do we, is it time for us again, for this council, start thinking about a festival committee? Or is Park and Rec willing to expand a little bit that and the one that,
the recreation.
the one that I'm, the recreation, the one that I'm
It's in the
thinking,
name.
right, the one that I'm actually thinking about and have been tossing around is, the three events that happen at Christmas. And is it somebody to focus on them? When I call the three events, because we got the Christmas tree lighting, we've got the golf cart parade, and for the last 2 years, we've got some sort of a concert in that aspect.
The golf cart parade is put on by the Old Village
So
Association.
the Old Village Association does that 100%. Okay, so that's theirs. Sorry, I knew that and forgot
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah, so that was done. But again, right, exactly. But again, working with them to figuring out when's the right weekends, when we want to do this, and really turn that beginning into welcome children and Port Royal residents to. And the other one that would be in there is, making sure Santa's available to come and ride on our fire truck. And help scheduling and letting neighborhoods know when we're gonna be and where we're gonna be. I'd like you, Commissioner, to kind of think about that aspect and, start off a little small with one type of group of events and then think about it from there while we decide whether we want to try to stand up somebody to get some of the load off of Brook to movie festivals and keep moving more towards, vans helping with the administration side. So that's my out of the box thought that I'm throwing out on the table. And you can come back and say, no, don't be hesitant to do that if that's what your board, that your commission decides is the right thing, and we'll figure out something else. I think it's great.
If they're willing, like I said, rec is in the name.
Rec is in the name, so rec is in the name, and I love the Christmas tree lighting event. Loved it since my kids were little and brought them there. Love it now that I'm part of it, and I feel like we can expand on that and really do something more there, and then bringing in, we got the kids singing from the school, and can we expand on that and that kind of stuff, but we keep them busy and somebody to think about it a little bit more in that aspect. So that's all I have. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and we appreciate the ticklers you're giving us on some things you need to look at. And I like where Councilman Rosaro went. Think about looking at your parks and saying, what's a 1, a 3, and a 5 year kind of needs to be done, because that helps us with our capital budget and our long-term plan.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll get with,
I think it's a great idea.
with, staff, and we'll put together a list of the parks, dates that they were, established, and last time that they were upgraded.
All right, and we promised to give you something on the new park. We're still thinking about how do we make that, is that a community charrette? Is the council deciding what it needs to be, what we know it wants to be?
Is it on Parks Fund?
The park, we're very, very close to actually having the final, the property being in our name. We are so close to that finally being in our name, where we can actually turn around and start saying, all right, this is what we want to do. And there's there's going to be short-term, long-term goals on that. What's the shortest term goal? Maybe that's just simply some restrooms somewhere along there in the sands. And the medium-term goal is and then the long-term goal aspect of that as well.
Yeah, that's something we talked about also, exploring, and this is not dumping, but something you can look into as well. I've taken some pictures around the state also about lavatory, restrooms at the neighborhood.
Right. Container bathrooms.
I remember that last meeting.
And the count is maybe the way to even look at it. We've seen the numbers we just saw this morning at the sands. Easily justify some sort of facilities there.
Yes.
And then what would be the next one? Is it, Naval Heritage of John Parker, one may be easier than the other in that aspect, so.
And phases, of course.
Yeah, sure. Well, very good. Thank you. Everybody good? John, thanks so much.
Sure.
Redevelopment Commission.
How are you, sir? We're asking business more.
Well, I was,
Here's our list of solid accomplishments.
I was 45 minutes off from what I projected as your time.
I forgive you. Okay, well, let's talk about it a little bit. What we've done this year is we started out doing more exploration, investigation, and learning what we have and what we did not have. Okay, and that includes the horizontal infrastructures, the properties that were available, the concepts of what we wanted to do.
Go ahead.
It's getting hot here.
And we've interviewed, we hosted out the Beaufort Water Jasper, trying to get them kind of moving into a big plan, not just a site-by-site plan. And again, you touched it today, and you've been talking with them, so maybe we could show them some progress on there. We have also interviewed the people at what we call the 19th Street property. They're very open to doing things that we want. We tried to get a town center, and the only place that was big enough for a town center along our corridor was the 303 apartment complexes across the street, across Rebo. The 19th Street property was not big enough, but they were very open to hosting some retail stores that would provide services such as, you know, a wine store, a meat shop, something that people could stop by work, buy bread, buy what cheese, whatever, and take home. We're a little bit stagnant in that area. We talked to Low Country Fresh Market. They were struggling, I guess still are a little bit with their business in Bluffton. And so they weren't really jumping on board with coming in. We also petitioned Fresh Market, and they rejected our idea to come down. So we've struggled quite a bit as far as the retail area goes. The discussions with the 303 on the Sea Island Apartments complex was kind of dead. However, as fate would have it, now they're going to have those apartments torn down by the end of the year. And we may also be having a VA center coming in. 303 is launching an aggressive program to secure that facility, you know, on that property. And the kind of money and the kind of expertise that they're putting forward to the projecting this to the VA is pretty impressive. So I have a really good feeling that we may in fact have that VA center starting construction in January of next year or thereabouts. The removal of the apartments in and of itself is a step forward as far as safe walking and beautification. I'm not beating it down, I'm understanding it needed some attention.
You talking about the Sea Island apartments?
Yes, and so all of a sudden, you know, I think also with the Naval Hospital closure, things shifted. We struggled through a lot of our ideas because construction costs shot up so high. Also, bank terms as far as getting a loan to put buildings on properties, you know, the ratio of loan to down payment changed. So I'm not quite sure where they are, but there is some movement, but it's a very slow process. It was a slow in learning, but it's also, I think we have got the momentum going. And I think we're going to see some changes with the mobile home park that was taken down. I think it was a huge step forward. I think we're going to see some things there. We talked to people putting a hotel in over by McDonald's. So we do have, you know, a hotel coming in there. We have, I think Hank Hofford has bought the property here on Paris and 16th Street, and they're looking at putting in, as I understand it, at this point, a little bit of a small hotel with a restaurant in it. So, you know, things are moving, but it's just very slow. And, you know, I
You
can't.
said hotel by McDonald's.
Yeah.
Expand on that a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Hotel at McDonald's, you just mentioned that. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I don't think we've heard.
I don't think we've heard anything about that. Does that make the McDonald's at Midtown?
That's the only one.
Yeah, so we're over by the medical center.
That's Midtown, yeah, that's our only jurisdiction.
And so we, you know, he was talking about, you know, the hotels and all that, but we do have hotels coming in, and that's not right on the Rebo corridor, but from what I understand, they're pressing forward and it should be moving
Where?
forward.
There's the question.
Yeah, we'll
There
talk,
was a property, and I believe it's in behind where the car wash is being built right now. That was prepped for, a hotel at one time. I'm not familiar with, they might have some more information here right now.
all right, that's good. Just the Midtown Center is all we really, I want to make sure we understood where it was. Those things, those deals happen behind the scenes and Brandon mentioned a hotel in the Midtown Center, right?
McDonald's.
By McDonald's.
That was approved years ago
Okay.
and fell by the wayside, and where the car wash is going in now is where that site.
That was the site,
Right,
so-
the other hotel potentially was the 170.
What's that in the car? Okay, so the McDonald's one may be dead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know
Okay,
that.
yeah, you know.
Well, yeah, there's a car wash being built right where it was.
The car wash is being erected on the property.
Okay. All right, sorry about that.
No, it's good. This is how it's why we're doing these things, make sure we're exchanging information.
And we can talk to the car wash people that cross the street from 16th Street there on 16th and Roubeau, and I think they are moving forward. There's, what I understand, they're struggling a little bit with the financing and whatnot. Kind of tough times, but they are struggling. So there is some progress, but it's, it's not, right, I can't take it out of short on you, but,
No, that's great.
things are going.
Listen, you're less than a year into this. You guys are doing great stuff. You understand that.
We are trying.
You're less than a year into this and, full change in scope. What we're asking you to
It's
do.
frustratingly slow, I'll tell you that. Frustratingly.
When it comes to economic development, be prepared for frustratingly slow.
I think I've got the merit badge.
That's the reality of it. Van can talk a lot about it. It's a very frustrating, but that it takes, and you heard John O'Toole and the other speak earlier, it takes sometimes months and years of just focusing and moving along.
You should talk to Oliver, and I bet they want to come.
They've been here and left.
And I mean, just to y'all's credit and, y'all's meetings in your group, because he's right, it's been a year. I mean, at last council meeting, I think we approved 4 or 5.
Yes, and thank you very much for that. That was good.
So,
Thank you for that. We had a few more. One, we're gonna do a motion on the sewer, and you guys are already working that, so kudos to you. The transportation plan, thank you for, we need to push that Safe Harbor Road, get these trucks off. Hardly a day goes by that I don't have dump trucks and semis coming through our neighborhood. There's people walking their babies and dogs, and we've got runs and events with the Y running down that road, but we still have these dump trucks and semis going through there. And if they're coming through Edinburgh, I know they're also probably coming through Richmond. It'd be nice if we could funnel those trucks out of the neighborhoods, and keep them on the main road. They come in zigzag through the whole neighborhood to get to where they're going, rather than just coming in and going directly to it. I'm not sure I understand that, but what their logic is, but, if we're not careful, somebody's gonna get hurt with those big trucks, and there's dump trucks. Anyway, enough on that, but they don't seem to want to slow down on Edinburgh. They run the stop signs. It's not a very safe situation. But we do need a plan, where the lights are gonna be. We do need that, that Safe Harbor Road to divert those trucks headed out. That's gonna be here for a long time. And if we don't get that road in, then they're just gonna be more and more and more trucks in and out as the constructions. If they continue to do their construction for the marina, they do the construction for the hotel there, for restaurants on the Safe Harbor property, it's just gonna be lots and lots of transportation through our neighborhoods, and that's just not gonna be safe. So I encourage you to pursue that. And we can make it a safer place. Roubeau, as far as being safer, I think we're moving with the construction and with the replacement of the apartments there. As we build up more and more, I think we'll find more people walking on Roubeau and feeling safer. It's not always a safe environment, but we're moving in that direction. we're gonna, we talked about getting a motion, to relocate, truck traffic from Rebo, and that objective in the town and part of your comprehensive plan.
Yeah, well, we can talk on that one. We, at the same time, we approved the rest of the recommendations from the redevelopment commission. We pulled that one out, and we're gonna do a resolution specifically and to send that off to the state, asking them just to, we understand it's a little bit of a pie in the sky, but we want to keep it in front of them, knowing that we want them to be looking at alternative routes, splitting the route, slowing the traffic down, all aspects. If you're going to keep it here, then how do we make it safer and more pedestrian friendly along being a truck route? So we're going to handle that one separately. We felt it had more, I don't know, you could say teeth, but certainly a little more behind it if we did it separately as a resolution by council.
Right.
So that's how we're taking that.
And that's a biggie. That's a biggie. It's as big as the utilities, really.
Yeah.
And I know that the statements that have been made regarding that have gotten the attention of the city of Beaufort.
Yes.
They think we're, attempting to, reroute it back through them, and we're like, no, it's a longer term look at how we see Rebo being redone and how traffic moves throughout northern Beaufort County.
Our newest project, I guess, is the one that you had requested originally. It was naming of the corridor and a plan to spread goodwill and cheer and make people want to come here. And we have got a contract with Alpha Graphics, and in the last meeting, I think Gateway Port Royal was what we're going to submit toward you, but I don't think just the Gateway Port Royal. I encourage you, when you approve this thing, the final thing, as you heard today, and as you all knew, we certainly heard in depth today, there's more to Port Royal than just the economics on that strip. We've got extensive history that really has not been exploited, has not been advertised. We've got beaches, we've got other things besides just trying to develop a business along that corridor. So in our plan, I would like to see, and I think most of our committee would like to see, that this is more of an introduction to just what we're, not only to entice business, but I know if I were looking for a business and the place had strong history, we've got the Marine families coming in, we've got fine restaurant and dining, we've got breweries, we've got, and it's going to get more and more. We need to push that as well. And that, I believe, will entice people to want to build and do business in Port Royal, and not necessarily just medical offices and things like that. But I mean, really engaging businesses. The streamlining of the approval process, in today's environment, things change quickly. So we appreciate your support in streamlining those processes, not making them a free ride, but streamlining them so that when somebody decides, now's my time, I need to jump, I can get my money, I want to build, it's not years and years of paperwork and whatnot. We can get it moving and get them moving before they.
Yeah, we got a really good update yesterday from planning and licensing. Inspection on, they're implementing some new software, some tracking, even to the point of online plan review, they're looking at. So they've identified that, we've heard that, and they're taking those steps forward. So maybe we can get them to do the presentation in front of the redevelopment commission, letting them know what we're talking about.
Super.
And get you up to speed on what's happening.
Super. So thank you for approving the motions and things we've talked about. We can move forward. I think the people on the committee, we've got some here. Thank you. They're wonderful. Brett, Dan, Kevin, thank you. They've all been very vital contributors to what we're trying to achieve. And so that's pretty much what we've done.
Well, I'll let you know, if you want to have a good time, you can go back and watch our 6-hour meeting from yesterday. But if you do watch it, the Rebo Road, sewer, economic development, Yells Commission was discussed heavily on many different topics like throughout the day. So thank you all for what you are doing. And just like I said, let you know yesterday, I mean,
They blamed you for everything.
we're thank you.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for stepping up and taking the shots.
I'm just hoping the reins on the horse, you know, they're geared, they're doing it.
But everything you were just saying, like I said, yesterday, it was discussed heavily with like our goals going forward and everything. So,
So it sounds like we're all singing on the same page.
Exactly.
And that's what it's gotta be, you pull apart, we won't get anywhere.
Yep.
You know, and my closing comments, please don't take this wrong, but you know, we want to develop, we want to build, we want to expand, but we don't want to lose Port Royal as it is. The people buy here and move here for what we've got here. And we don't want to lose it. We want to enhance it, support it, try to get some businesses in that will enhance that experience as opposed to, you know, just losing everything. But, okay, that's a soapbox.
Absolutely.
But that's.
Thank you.
Need to be said.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, have a great, thank you, and thank you to the rest of the commission that's in the room. Thanks for all that you do.
That's what we're talking about.
Greg, back on the table.
Back on the table, okay. We have people back here along the wall, and I've invited them to sit with us today for a reason. The guy in the blue shirt over here hasn't said anything all day, that's Martin Perel Lighting, and he's the guy over the last couple of years. When you look at what we've done, that Music from the Manger, and you sit there and look at all of the lighting and the effects, that's Martin. And he's the guy that's done that.
The wizard.
The wizard, we've nicknamed him the wizard. We got Brent Smith, who over the last couple of years, if we need something high, on a high ladder, we send Brett. We got Sledgehammer Debbie back here. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Debbie. Trying to nail a Christmas tree stake into the ground last year. Missed the stake and literally started doing 360s with a sledgehammer. And the other thing I want to point out is that we have a couple of volunteers, you have a number of volunteers that worked on this Christmas show in Port Royal that are now one of your chairmen over here for redevelopment. Tim Ball, who's part of the volunteer group, also here on redevelopment. John Hazel, who was instrumental this year in negotiating through some of the fog that we had to deal with at the Y and with the community church. John's now chairman, or not now, but John's chairman of our Parks and Recreation Commission. The point that I'm making is that a lot of people that came together that helped put that show starting 2 years ago are now in positions within Port Royal to make a big difference. And I think that says a lot, because volunteering is kind of like not only a non-paying job, but usually you don't get a lot of gratitude for the effort and work that you put into it. And that kind of brings me to where we are, where we're talking about Music from the Manger. Music from the, and I didn't have to go through the slides, I think, I'm going to talk through it, is that Music from the Manger really started, as you all know, as a simple conversation. Right? Let's raise some money for a charity in Port Royal a couple of years ago. In 2020, Port Royal Music Academy raised somewhere around the neighborhood of $750 for a charity, with Liz singing and John and Jim playing guitar. And then they asked me to kind of get involved. Somewhere my brain exploded and I said yes. And the next thing I knew, we were moving into an abandoned warehouse. Everybody knows that. We had Martin come along and make a dark, dingy looking warehouse, almost attractive for some 248 people to sit in for a music concert in Port Royal. Then we moved into 2022. We had a venue issue because we couldn't move into the warehouse anymore. And the warehouse was special because of where it was situated, how you kind of look through the opening bay doors into the Christmas trees that were back there where Sledgehammer Debbie was driving the stakes into the ground. But at the end of the day, But 248 people in there, and it was a lot of fun. Rand and I broke our backs trying to move all of those 4x8 panels. This year was a little bit different. We didn't have a lot of choices on where we could go. We moved into the Y, and that gave us a couple benefits. We had lights, overhead lights other than Martin's. We had bathrooms, which we had to go do porta johns the year before. We had electricity that was already there. We didn't have to move it in from power poles anywhere. Excuse me. And one of the things that we have to recognize is that if you were at the show this year and you sat there as the people came up on that stage and performed, they got to perform after almost 2 months of these people, the volunteers that are around this table right now, of the work that went into getting that stage in that position. And John was a big part of all of that. So that they could get out there and perform and do what they did for the town of Port Royal and for the people that attended that show. The fact that we had the folks from Springer, and I don't know if any of you have ever been in Springer, but that woman, Medina Gonzalez, her response to everything that we talked to her about was, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. And I think Mayor DeVito will also agree that the spread that they put out for us as the host for that show was absolutely phenomenal. We walked in and looked at it and went, it's like 100 times more than we were asking for, right? So you look at that and say, all right, so what is all this about Christmas? Mayor DeVito just said it would be nice if we could get the tree lighting, the golf cart parade, the kids choir, and all of that into some kind of an organized festival that maybe runs during a week, right? So we tried to do that last year, it was 3 days. One was VIP part of the show, and then on Sunday we had outside performances. It takes an enormous amount of energy to get to that last mile. And one of the things that I think that, and I made the proposal to council before in October, and it basically said, hey, look, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. And if Port Royal could be the primary sponsor for that event, and what does that mean? Is that it is the Port Royal Music Holiday Festival or whatever we call it. But we still go out and get sponsors and bring them in, just like this right now out on Paris Avenue. There are sponsors that are supporting that event. And so in addition to Port Royal being the primary sponsor, there are other sponsors that we could bring in. We did not get a very good response from sponsors this year. We did not get a very good response to the venue this year. A lot of things that we wanted to do, we could not do. We were restricted from doing. And thank God for Springer, because when we couldn't do the VIP party the night of the show at the Y, I knew that there was a bar over at Springer's because I've been there for some event. So we went over and said, hey, can we borrow your bar? And then one turned around and said, Jay, you can borrow the bar and we'll provide the food. And we'll do this and we'll do that. And we had, last year we had little cocktail tables, this year we had seats for 60. All of that took months to coordinate. And what we're proposing, and we were just talking about it earlier with John Hazel and possibly Parks and Recreation, is that we coordinate something like that in a committee that would you would stand with the committee now at the beginning of the year so that they could work through to the end of the year. And what I mean by that is that rather than trying to get all of what we put together for music from the major in about 90 days or 60 days, really, because it just got compressed, we would do over the course of the year. So we'd have it all planned. We'd have the fundraising lined up. We'd have the venue selected. We heard from Rob Wells a little while ago. We worked with the DMO earlier this year. We heard that's my cue, right? We heard, we worked with Rob, this year and the DMO in place of the way that we were doing it the first year. You know, with Cape Hamilton and TV, radio, all that kind of stuff that we were doing. The approach that Rob suggested is that we use the social media that he was talking about, all of those touch points, all of the various websites that we had, all of the clicks, this, that, and the other thing. What I don't know is how many of those people that actually clicked were at the show. Because we had a goal of 300 seats, 300 tickets, and we sold about 198 people in the seats this year. But there were a lot of complimentary tickets that were given out. So we sold only about 148 tickets. So we need to improve on that. And so the proposal is that we either stand up a committee in Port Royal and it becomes a Port Royal event titled as such, Port Royal, rather than just have the music from the manger of Port Royal Music Academy. It would be a Port Royal town event. The town would receive the benefit, financial benefit of whatever revenue the show produces. And that the committee, so for example, I know already that Martin would be interested in being on that committee so that he could look at whatever the venue or whatever we were talking about doing and plan it accordingly. That guy, he individually, personally, went to the Y on 7 or 8 different occasions just to walk that floor so we could determine the best layout of where we would put all of the lighting and equipment and stuff like that. The decorations that went into it. Again, Debbie Ball, my wife, Ann, and a couple of others did all of those decorations, all of the garland, all of the lights, all of that stuff. And rather than it being compressed in the time period that we've been working under, I think it would make more sense and probably be much more successful as a show if we did it over the course of the year. Stand up a committee, select people that have somewhat experience in this thing and how to run it. And I'm a business guy, I run financial service companies. I have a very limited knowledge of productions like this, right? So, thankfully, we had a real good group of volunteers that really worked very hard to do what we did. And then I think it kind of brought people into Port Royal, especially at the festival. So if we can coordinate the trees, the golf cart parade, the show, the VIP reception for our sponsors, and do that in such a way where it's coordinated, we know what we're doing, there are people that have been involved with it, and it isn't last minute. I mean, thank God for Dan. I mean, Dan and Brooke both were very, very helpful to us this year, council as well, but I mean, they can't be bothered with just another, here's one more thing to go do. So this doesn't suggest that we turn this over to staff. It turns over to this committee that would run with it and report back to council and report back in such a way that if there is an approval or rejection about anything that we're doing, we know about it up front. And I think it's time for a change in terms of performers. We actually went to see a young lady who performed at a couple different events here in town, and we went to some country club to see her perform. And Carol's.
Is that Katie Godowns?
We brought a whole bunch of people that did not know what Harold's was. Just that we went to the country club and we get there and they go, they love this. So,
bar hopping, looking for music for the band.
yeah, so. Yeah, so that's exactly what it was. But,
You know,
And nothing
and
else.
listening to you, Greg, too, you know, and sitting here, Historic Port Royal Foundation, doing their best, they want to do the tour, Christmas tour of the home. We could have a week of all, something every night.
Well, that's a great idea.
yeah, and that's the idea. Right.
It's important.
And my suggestion to Park and Rec is that, if we got a long way to go, but if their committee or their commission thinks this is something, you would be, this group would be formed as a subcommittee from them, and you'd be reporting through them, and they would be reporting through us. So we wouldn't have a new board, new commission, or new group that we manage. It would work through some of the existing and deal with that rec side of what we're trying to do. One of the things that I think we've got to throw out here, I think, is, the concert has been, the concert's been great. I've been to both of them. I made sure intentionally that I could be there. I thought they were wonderful. But there may be a name change that gets associated with it.
Absolutely.
Because I think that first year, the way you did it and that look through there, the whole major thing made sense. But because of where we may end up with the venue, it may be something, and as we move it around a little bit, as we develop venues in Port Royal, and because we're gonna do that over years as well, I think calling it something might be one of the things that have.
And I absolutely agree.
I love what you did. The group brought together, they brought this thought to Port Royal, and I think it makes sense. And I love the idea that we had so many and try to keep that process in some aspect going of musicians, kids, people that grew up in this town and are now able to do that kind of thing is another great aspect. Look what you can learn in Port Royal and look what you can end up doing. So as you heard by me asking John and the number of conversations, so thank you for sharing the budget, and we'll share that with the rest of the council so we know what it costs. You sent that to me late this week, and what it costs them to put on music from the major, and then how much was donated in that aspect, because that's all stuff we need to understand as we move forward.
Right, and we've had a conversation that is, as we go forward, the show doesn't necessarily need to be a donation to anywhere. We said that whatever net proceeds were, we could actually use that as funding for the next coming year in terms of what we're doing here in town. But I think the bottom line really is that the show's got name recognition. I can't tell you how many people, I went somewhere with Rand, and I just randomly walked across the floor in this place, and there's a guy on the other side of the floor who goes, "You're that music from the manger guy," right? So
how we get tagged.
It was Ridgeland, right?
Pretty good compared to what you get called normal.
So
What I'm telling you, right? So I got a tattoo on my forehead.
But it needs people that understand this much better than I.
Yeah, and I'm gonna lean, like I said, we're moving forward. Jerry has a lot more depth into this than all the years he's worked on the water festival, and what's happened there. Sorry, I didn't realize where I was going. I didn't know. He knows so much what it takes to put on an event. I personally know from my aspect, but it was a single event, 7 years, we brought that cycling event. Granted, it was downtown city of Beaufort. The criteria and what it took and the amount of effort, the amount of time and effort I had to put into making that. So I understand that. That's why, a solid board, solid commission that rolls over every year, that's already formed, that's already in place, I think is one of the things that we need to start with. And then figuring out who's the right, that's step one. If they agree, if they don't agree, then we'll take on step two and figure out, all right, how else can we do this?
I think I put it in the presentation, but overall, we averaged about 20 volunteers both last year and this year, different capacities of doing things. And what they get for it is a sandwich at Fish Camp at the end of the year. But, you don't sign up to do this for a Fish Camp sandwich. You do it because you want to help out and contribute to the town. And we just have a few of those folks right now. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, it's some of the things that we've done. And right now, we are, the volunteers have now become friends. We go out, we do things. Martin, who he just showed up. Actually, it was Rand said, there's a guy in town that does lighting, and we got Martin. And I mean, this guy's phenomenal. And without Rand going up on these ladders, so it's you need volunteers. You need volunteers to know what to do. But I really would like if it was a function that came from Port Royal. That's what I'm proposing.
So we're absolutely, that conversation is happening and we're trying to figure out how, if there's a way to do it.
Okay, I think it's a great way to appreciate it.
And
It just
if
feels.
we do, we're gonna restrict that to those.
Thank you.
That's a great name.
Certainly can find better use for yours.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you again, Greg. Thanks for being here all day today, and I appreciate the information, and we're on to, well, actually, I think we missed one. We were gonna talk about how to stand up the ATAS. Did I,
Well, we've already started that process.
you're good?
I mean, we just gotta get applications, and once we get that, and it's a blueprint that's there already.
Okay, so you got a good blueprint, we're good, so we will be standing up a new commission. We need bodies, there are some people recently that have been asking to do some things, Jerry introduced me to a gentleman last night. What was his name?
Preserve over here.
Yeah, Greg, he was very interested in doing something, I know one or two others, so let's make sure that we get that information out and talking about, so that, again, we've been briefed on why we have to stand up that commission, and I think it's an important one to do. So now we're at closing comments. Would staff like to say anything before council?
We've heard a lot. Yeah.
Let's go. Sweet, this has been great. I love y'all, but we got some of the best barbecue cookers in South Carolina. The top 3 in the state are cooking, so I love y'all, but.
You gotta go?
No,
Jerry, you have anything?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Super productive.
Yes.
Very good.
No, I just think we've done a great retreat this
Thank you,
year.
staff.
Thank you, staff, for helping, and volunteers that are coming in and doing groups, and, you know, it's gave us a lot of information to carry forward.
And I'd like to thank everybody who's taken the time to watch this online, either live or follows up with it later on. I'd like to thank staff for indulging us and asking us to go to the day and a half or slightly more over the 2 days. It's absolutely what we need as the town has grown.
We only make one request,
One request.
that it not be during Vansbru's barbecue next year.
We will, you can start now on picking the date. It's, you know, we want it as early as possible after the first of the year to get you information for budgeting. Let's get the date on the calendar and figure it out. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Be safe.
Thank you.